What is up, everybody? This is Raw Matt. I am now waiting for Matt Blackburn, and I sent him the link, so he should have it at any time. And I will try to not have very many distractions with phone, text, so I'll be turning those off. Let me make sure that everything is going good. I will try to not have very many distractions. There we go. Perfect. It is live, and there's Matt. All right, everyone, this should kickstart up soon. I'm going to close this. And we will go from here. So, for those of you watching, it looks like we are going to be doing a Q&A. So this should be fun. And we are also going to be taking questions from the audience coming from Matt's side, from his Instagram. So I'm sorry it's so dark. I will turn on some more lights here in a minute. I don't see anywhere where comments can come in. Okay, my bad. This is my second time ever using this, so I'm sorry if it is slow. I'm sorry if it's reacting kind of strange. I don't know how the audio is, so I'm going to have to rely on the audience to tell me how we sound. And what is that light back there? Oh, it's my water machine. Oh, get that. See if any more lights can go on. There we go. It's a little better. All right, it's good. Thank you. That's awesome. All right, I sent Matt the link, and we should have him here in a little bit. And if you have any questions you want to get to now, I would definitely recommend getting them in now, because once those start rolling in, we're going to be on top of it. And I really don't know what the topic is going to be. I think we are going to be talking about so much. So no matter really what the topic goes to, we're just going to answer it. There's nothing going to hold us back tonight. So this will be really fun. We might argue, we might debate on something, who knows? So this should be good. I got some questions written down for him. We might not even get to them. So that'll be good. On my channel, I've started doing some exercise videos. And, oh, standing for truth. There we go. Great. So it looks good. This is awesome. That's great news. I have some options on how to make banners, on how to make things move around. Hopefully it works good tonight. We're going to go for, I don't know, hour, 2 hours. Oh, here we go. Look at that red spectrum. Let's hear you say something, Matt.
Can you hear me?
Yes. There we go.
Nice.
Very cool. Wow, it is much brighter where you are. Okay, I feel bad now. That's on my side. I got to turn them.
It's probably too bright. Yeah, let me switch this around here. Whoa. Let's see.
Hopefully it's inexpensive.
Yeah. There we go. Okay, cool. Oh, we're already live. All right, here, I got to go live on Instagram. Let's see here. Whoa. Okay. What is happening here?
I'm all typing. I'm so used to never being live. I'm like replying with chat.
Okay, I think I'll full screen this and then we'll be good.
I control that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, look, I can rearrange that. Look, I can split it right here. I don't know if it takes effect. Whoa, look at that one. I got you. So there's that. Here's equal.
Let me see here. There we go. I gotta set this up where everyone can see it. I think that's pretty good.
Okay.
And if I just move, okay, that's think it's as good as it'll get. Um, awesome. Yeah.
Okay.
So how else we've done this, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. It was pretty cool. It seems like they're giving me a trial for 7 days. I don't know how if it's going to continue to run more, but I'm going to take advantage and practice it as much as I can to see if it's worth going
Nice.
for.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, let me see. Okay, cool. We're live on Instagram.
Oh
Yeah,
my god.
people were probably shocked because I was like, I'm interviewing a raw vegan fruitarian MMA fighter.
That should get some views.
Right? And I know you're a lot more than that. You're pretty well studied. I don't know a lot of people that research as much as you do, so it's cool. It's always fun to talk to you. We were chatting on the phone yesterday, and it's always like, man, we should record this because people would like to hear it.
I think you're right, man. I study everything. It doesn't really matter. It's knowledge is knowledge. The more you expand, the better. That's one of the problems with people that just they start to study one subject and then they forget to study the opposing view. Well, how in the world are you going to argue against one view when you haven't studied both sides? It's completely contradictory.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well said. And we're mutual friends with Rowan, who has the Eternal Life fan club. Just give him a shout out. He has a pretty cool material on there. And there's not a lot of longevity channels. I mean, I think you've seen, I've been in the biohacking space, and it's kind of like this transhumanist view of longevity, where it's like, I don't know, using tons of devices, and nothing wrong with using a few devices here and there. I do, but I think people go overboard and don't prioritize the right thing. And I like you because you seem like you're more foundational, but you also like your magnetic field. You like your, bumping up the pressure and all that stuff that used to be on the old Earth.
Oh, definitely. I think that everybody needs to eat, right? So there comes the caloric base. Like, what are you going to actually put pounds of in your body? We can get to the supplemental things, but remember, they're supplemental for a reason, and only small, minuscule amounts come in. So you shouldn't rely so heavily on supplements and then negate and neglect your diet, which is the majority of calories coming into your body. I always found it quite strange. People just say, well, I just eat pasta for my calories, and then I supplement everything else in. It's kind of like that's an interesting perspective, but you're kind of doing a disservice to your body because you're eating pounds of pasta and then you're taking 1 ounce of something and expecting to get everything that you would have gotten from an actual food group.
Yeah, doesn't Ray Kurzweil take like 50 or 60 supplements a day? Him and Dave Asprey are probably on the same level.
They are. You know how expensive and inaccessible that is for the general public? You know how that's like saying, let's do calisthenics. That's great when you're starting out and maybe even for the first couple years. And then you're to the point where you're like Herschel Walker and you need 1,500 push-ups every single day just to maintain what you have. That's an insane amount of time gone in your day just for maintenance when you can really just go outside, do 6 sets of something, and then just keep going up in weight. So
I love it. And I like your little banner here at the bottom, health is wealth. It's like an upgrade from CNN and all the garbage they put down there.
that's right. Health is wealth. I like to think of it like ask anybody who's 80 or 90 years old. Anybody, it doesn't matter who they are. And guess what? Their health will be failing them because they're in their later age. And ask them if they wouldn't trade all of their money to get their youth back. Well, youth is health, right? Of course they would. They would give you every cent they've ever earned because they would know they know the true value in life because they've experienced it. We don't appreciate it because we're young and we always have health and vitality. We will appreciate it more once it's lost. And I don't want to get to that point. I want to appreciate it now.
I love it. Yeah, I fully agree. And I think people don't realize, all the tools we have available to us. And I don't know, I just see people getting caught up in these really confusing, elaborate, complicated ideologies. I was there. I don't know. I think you saw me go through my DHA sunlight phase. And now it's funny that I've come out the other end and I'm advocating against both of those things. And I think a lot of people glorify the sun. I call them sun worshipers. And there is a huge spiritual component. But you've talked about ultraviolet light being harmful, and that's well known, right? It's not like a conspiracy that they're trying to make us sick. right? By saying UV is bad. UV is bad, and a lot of people can get too much of it, especially if they have a lot of PUFA in the tissue.
Yeah, absolutely. We know that the different spectrums of ray cause damage because ever since they really invented the first sun tanning beds, and they thought, for example, oh, it's just UVA or it's just UVB. Well, they invented those beds, and people still got skin cancer from laying in them. And then you get even more of a problem because Oakley, for example, they spend more money than anybody when it comes to getting a very expensive lens for their sunglasses. They want to know what ultraviolet spectrum is the most damaging for the eyes. And they actually found that when you go into the upper atmosphere, like when you're going skiing and you're up in the Alps, that's the most damaging ultraviolet you can get. It's called UVC rays. And UVC is exceptionally damaging, but you only obtain it when you're in the upper atmosphere. So that, like when you're flying on planes and things like that. So when you're snowboarding and skiing and you're really high, those ultraviolet damage is even greater than it is at sea level. So then you have to protect yourself from an extra ultraviolet ray. So yeah, I've been a huge proponent of abstaining from light, as where most people think the more time you spend in it, the better. I do the opposite.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I saw a video of yours last night where you were talking about, what was it? There were the three children that were kind of raised in was it in the basement or the attic, and they never saw the sun. They aged slower.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of those actually, but the Methuselah children were the best example because they were never exposed to sunlight, meaning their parents wanted to keep them a secret, and the mom never let them outside. Matter of fact, the neighbors that grew up there didn't even know that they had children because they were born at home and they were immediately placed in the attic. And you can see by the time they're 13, 15, or sorry, 13, 16, and 18, they look like they hadn't even aged to the point of 10, the oldest one. And the second they were exposed to the sun, boom, they immediately started aging again, extremely fast. Now, of course, they are a decade behind everybody. So when they're 50, they looked 40. So that was good. But really, it biologically stunted their growth and age, and it made them live, was going to make them live a lot longer, just that one aspect. Now, imagine if we combined every aspect.
Yeah. Yeah. I love how you talk about, I can't remember that Christian preacher that talks about the what is it, that biodome a lot, and how tomatoes were the size of baseballs and everything was increased. And so I think, I sleep on magnets, and I do 20 Gauss on the Magnetico, and they show, I mean, it's 2.5 times increased lifespan in human tissue cultures just with that magnetism. And then imagine if we got the light frequencies right, and we're not overdosing on UV. I think red light's the most important one.
Oh, for sure. Well, look at your room.
Yeah. I'm a little biased.
Yeah. I mean, I have 2 lights on, and you can't even tell. Look at your room. You must have a huge wattage.
Yeah, these are my Gemba red lights. So I think I have 2 going. Yeah, from my friend Andrew, and he just creates affordable red lights because a lot of companies like Juve do an insane markup just because they have like athletes they're giving them to for free and promoting them and stuff. And so it's always cool to find companies where there's not a lot of marketing money going into it.
Right. Yeah. There isn't a lot to be made. There isn't a lot to be made with a lot of these things, but it doesn't mean it shouldn't be promoted. Yeah. It's sad that what makes people the most money is usually the most worthless.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to do some of the questions as we're going here? There's
already. Yeah, let's do it.
Let's see here. Been hearing a lot of negative hype on Shilajit. Is this true? No idea about that.
What kind? I would imagine that the only negative counterindication I've ever heard from studies on Shilajit are, depending on the source that they come from, they can have a higher concentration of iron, or they have the way that they're processed and ground up, similar to chocolate. The more ground up it is into a powder, the more heavy metals you're going to get. But that's not from the Shilajit. That's from the processing method. So usually you want to get the actual resin. It's really thick. It's almost like a sludge, like tar. That's probably the best source because that's what you would grab if you walked up to it in nature.
I love it. This is a really good one. What's the best way to get vitamin D then? Eggs?
Well, it depends on the source. I mean, your body stores vitamin D for an extremely long, excessive period of time. I mean, usually people that are chronic in vitamin D, because vitamin D isn't a vitamin, it's an actual hormone, and it's a liquid hormone, and it's a lipid soluble, meaning your liver stores it and it's fat. So we actually don't require much of it. You can get it and it'll recirculate for a very long time. Toxicity in low people that are low in vitamin D, it takes an extreme long periods of time to not to run out of it. You want your body to recycle it and to make it. Now, most people don't believe that that's true, but that's exactly how hormones work in the body. It's called biological transmutation as well when we're dealing with elements. And I haven't been in the sun myself. I avoid it like the plague. And years and years and years, I had a blood test done. My vitamin D levels were perfect. And no, I do not supplement.
That's awesome. That's really interesting. Yeah, and that's a big thing about how Matt lives his life is biological transmutation. And an easy way to think of it is chicken. It doesn't have a lot of calcium in its diet, yet it pumps out these eggs that are full of calcium, right? The eggshells. And so how are they generating calcium? Well, they're transmuting certain elements, right? So
that's right. There's different sources too of vitamin D. Now, people that are chronically low, of course, they need vitamin D, but they need to be a little bit cautious because, like I'm saying, just because you're low on something doesn't mean you can boost it up very, very quickly. So what you want to do is you want to take D3 for a very short while, maybe about 3 weeks, and then lay off and take D2 because that's the natural body's what it would obtain, and it would do a conversion on its own. It would take it and it would convert it to D3. That's the safer method because anytime you're getting into vitamin A or D or K, these are overdose vitamins. You can take too much. I just want you to be on the safe side, and you go, oh my gosh, I'm low, and then you start slamming these supplements that you can overdose on. I don't want you to have a problem going the opposite way either. Being low isn't good. Being high isn't good. So my blood test is over at my friend Jake's place. I asked him for it back so I can give everybody the numbers and post it. And I'll do that for everybody soon so you can see the actual numbers because I don't supplement iron, I don't supplement B12, and I don't supplement vitamin D. And those are the things that all vegans are really told that they need and should be doing. And all my levels were good. So
that's awesome. Yeah, and also omega-3s, right? And that's unfortunate. My current belief is that E and K are the hardest to get, and most people are deficient in those because it's a seesaw, right? That other nutrients deplete other nutrients, and so if you slam vitamin D like 50,000 IU's, like some people's protocol, you'll tank your magnesium even more, and then cause hypercalcemia, right? Just extreme systemic. I mean, everyone's already calcified as a rock. And then you slam vitamin D, and that's a calcifier, right? And so we need decalcifiers like shilajit and magnesium. And I haven't seen any detriment from taking E and K, but if you down a bottle a day, that's probably not good.
Yeah. Exactly. People get a little too excited when they start their supplement regimen. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, I love it. You can't take too many. No, you can. You can even take too many B vitamins, and those are even water soluble, though the damage is not as scary because they are water soluble. You'll get rid of them. People are taking them constantly. You know what I mean? And that's never good. You're constantly bombarding your system. So you got to be careful with all things. Now our soil is depleted, so we have to put things in that we normally wouldn't have to reach to anymore if our soils were better. So we do have to supplement certain things. It makes sense. But what do you supplement? How much are you supplementing? You gotta study it. You can't just go, oh, I'm just going to go buy a multivitamin. As you know, most people make huge mistakes just buying something. That's just crazy.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. This is a good one. Someone says, can we get into plant versus animal protein? And so this is an interesting, I know there's whole debates, there's whole, hour-long debates on this all over YouTube. And there was a recent thing with John Venus eating eggs, right? And there's all this like YouTube drama. It's like people don't watch YouTube, they have no idea. But it's just like high school. It's really retarded. But yeah, the protein thing is something that has been on my mind for the last 10 years easily. And I've mostly gone through experience with it. So, I experimented with different belief systems about protein and then found that I was just weak. And then I just found that when I added in animal protein, I felt stronger. and I had more stamina, more endurance, just more strength. And so I think Matt might have seen me go through a lot of different phases. I tried a lot of combinations. I did Lou Corona's program, coconut almond yogurt. I was fermenting the almonds, soaking them. I was even supplementing essential amino acids heavily. I can't even remember how many doses, maybe like 6 scoops a day. Really getting up there in the grams, and royal jelly. I mean, I was even living on raw milk for a while. That wasn't enough. And it was when I started eating it like bison was my thing, and that really brought me back. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess there's always going to be a debate about protein, right? For me, it's my understanding that there's strong, medium, and weak proteins, and soy isolate would be like a weak protein, right?
Usually people will that have kidney issues notice the differences with proteins. You can find hard to digest proteins in the plant kingdom like spirulina, and you can find easy plant digestion like cashew nuts, a very simple digestion protein, as where some are even harder on the kidneys. But usually this comes down to calcium phosphorus ratio. But the problem with meat proteins that I don't really like is the combination of endotoxins, the lipotoxins, they have advanced glycolytic end products simply because they have higher concentrations of fat to protein. So that's a disaster to mix. And then you have TMAOs. You have insulin-like growth factor 1 or IGF-1 growth hormone. You have the gene called NEU5GC. That isn't a very good one because that's a particular acid that comes in from meats, and it's broken down into a glycated state, which makes it horrible. It has C-reactive proteins, and some of the worst is that you can't get rid of are the purines. They build up as uric acid crystals and cause people gout. So these side effects that come from meat proteins, why in the world would you want a side effect from just eating a protein, right? When you can just get a simple plant one. It just doesn't make much sense. But then again, like I'm saying, even plant proteins, they have to match up. You don't want high methionine. That's what makes meat a class 1 carcinogen. So there's plant proteins that have very high methionine levels. So if you want to lower your methionine, it'll extend your life. So there's certain plant proteins you don't want either. So you have to be very regimented and very smart when you look at these plant proteins, like what source am I going to get into every single day? Just like you would if you were an animal protein, like which one's better? Is it eggs, whey, meat? Like which one? There's so many different varieties. To just lump them like plant versus meat, well, I'll take the worst plant and the best meat and compare them, and it won't look good for a plant. So see what I mean? You have to really just study it all, and I've done that all. So you guys can just go and research all of it. It's all free. Under every video I give a link under show more, and it goes to all my books and work. And there's one that's an exercise book. It's about 100 pages. It's so detailed on all that. So feel free just to click on it. It's all free.
I love it. Yeah, those are great points. And I think if I stopped eating red meat, which I don't see myself ever doing again, but it would be raw dairy and royal jelly, and I would kind of use those as my protein sources.
Yeah, expensive sources, though. Let people know that.
Yeah.
Royal jelly is a protein source is up there in cost. Yeah.
What is far infrared light for again? So it penetrates, I think it's like 6 inches, and that's my understanding, it creates the 4th phase of water around our cells. And so it'll create that gel-like water that holds electrons better, negatively charged electrons. And so basically you're improving your battery pack of the cells in your organs and tissues where that infrared light's hitting.
Nice.
Any thoughts? Yeah.
Oh no, I was letting you take over on that one.
Yeah.
Too much time on every question because like
Yeah.
I've even seen tons of them roll through on the side. It's tough.
Someone said, "What's wrong with aging, though?"
Oh well, they're obviously not very old. Aging is a disease. Biologically, there are many things that do not age. So why are you okay with the fish that doesn't age, but yet you're okay with aging yourself? We don't want to break down. Breaking down is a horrible thing. Aging has a different meaning. I guess it's like an umbrella term. When I talk about aging, I talk about it from the disease aspect. Think about it like this. Who's older, my grandmother or my grandfather? My grandmother, she could walk around the house completely fine. She could get down, clean under the beds, pick things up and move them. She could help us move. But yet she forgot my name. She called me the dog's name. She called me my mom's name. She had all kinds of messed up problems with her brain. Or my grandfather. My grandfather could memorize anything. He loved watching game shows. He would try to play me in cards to beat me, but he couldn't walk without my assistance. Which one's older? Well, they're exactly the same age. They have a different disease. They each had a disease from aging, and that's what I'm against. Disease, aging is a disease. There should be no distinction from somebody by looking at them biologically to tell their age, and that's what me and Matt here are trying to figure out. We're trying to figure out the most extreme longevity process to glorify our bodies, because we were given these bodies. They're the temple. We want to promote them, and we want them to be extremely healthy our entire life. We want to, if we're going to die, it should be in our sleep in the middle of the night and never knew it was going to come.
Well said. Yeah, in our phone conversation last night, I said that I think the number one thing to focus on with anti-aging is lowering stress. And not, having spikes of stress isn't a bad thing, right? But keeping cortisol low for the most part, most of the time. And I think that's moved to the top of my list. That's why I don't think food is as important. I think water is more important than food. That's kind of my whole message. But I think if you get the water right, maybe you get some real Shilajit coming in, so you don't get leukocytosis from the inorganic minerals that the plants can't convert right now. And then you just lower stress, and if you just do those three things alone, you're going to live a lot longer. And then, you can keep stacking on that if you want.
There you go.
Can you discuss saturated fats and why they're essential? Opposing views mention saturated fat congesting your arteries. Thoughts? So yeah, I've never said they're essential. I know that, and I think we spoke about this on the phone, you can make saturated fat from sugar, right? Adam Bergstrom on my podcast has talked about that. I mean, that's like a fact. It's not like you can make saturated fat, the essential fats, from sugar, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Saturated fat is what your body makes. The United Nations Health Organization, they even stated there is no reason to consume saturated fat because your body makes more than it needs. So if it makes more than it needs, then we don't have to worry about getting cholesterol or any of these things. So we can obtain it if we desire, but we have to remember that there can be a slight inflammation that comes from saturated fats. It can cause a little bit of oxidative stress to the body. It restricts blood vessels if you take too much, which can raise blood pressure. There's some counterindications from saturated fat, but like everything, there isn't too much that exists in nature from plants that raise it. And one of my staples is actually coconut. So I consume a lot of saturated fat, and I really didn't notice any of those negative markers that make it very high. So there must not, again, I exercise. If you exercise, you can get away with a lot of saturated fat. Here's a perfect example of that. The Maasai. The Maasai are a group of people that eat predominantly meat, drink blood, and drink the milk. And they run every single day of their life an average of around 8 to 16 miles. That's a lot. But their lifespan is some of the shortest on earth. And they don't really die from atherosclerosis until they stop running when they get older in life. Then their average lifespan is 42 for men and 44 for women. And the reason they die is because of that plaque isn't building up while they're exercising. Second they stop, it just bombards them, and they just don't live for very long. So we got to be careful with our lifestyle. If you exercise, you can get away with doing a lot wrong. If you don't, be careful. You be a strategist and come up with a really good plan.
I love it. Yeah. And I look at it too from a contextual perspective. I find people don't realize this. This is why I started selling vitamin E, is because, I don't know, I could speak for myself here, but the first 25 years of my life, I was mega dosing canola oil because, I was eating out. I was going to bowling with my friends. I was eating dinner at a Mexican joint at midnight with my friends. I was eating in a Mexican joint with my friends after high school. I was eating everywhere, right? In every single place. Without it, they weren't cooking in butter. They weren't cooking in coconut oil. I just know that. They were cooking my food in canola oil, and I ate that for my entire life. And so my vitamin E requirements are higher. I think my saturated fat requirements are higher. Oil change, right? I mean, it's just, if your body's full of these toxic PUFAs, lipid peroxidation, and then you have iron overload that adds oxygen to PUFAs because of the ALOX enzymes. There's 8 of them that adds oxygen to PUFAs. Everyone has lipid peroxidation. Everyone's stressed. Everyone has iron. And so that combination, you just have chronic inflammation, right? Which breeds fibrosis and lipofuscin, talking about UV light. So there's a lot of connections. I hope some people followed that. But what I'm just saying is you need an oil change with saturated fat. And that's kind of my mentality now. So you have to look at all the fats you were consuming the previous 3 decades and then kind of assess, okay, maybe I have to do an oil change and flush out these PUFAs with saturated fats.
I like that. That's good. Your audience knows what you're saying. The ones that are tuned in here are probably like, what the hell is a PUFA? It stands for polyunsaturated fatty acids, and it's mostly found in plants. So that's where that's coming from.
Yeah. Nuts, seeds, grains, legumes, soy was the big one. Even some vegetables have PUFAs, so it's crazy. Someone said, Matt and his guests sound like they have totally different diets. Which one is correct? And that's why I wanted to do this and speak with you, because, I've had friends drop me because I changed my diet. Like I've had vegan friends excommunicate me when I started eating meat.
That's not fun then.
Yeah. I'll be friends with vegans, and I give a lot of tough love, and people say I'm trolling, but it's like, I think love is not soft. Love is tough, and it's the truth. And so I'm going to be tough on the vegans. I'm going to ask them the hard questions, right? Why have you never looked at NPK fertilizer, Justice von Liebig? Why have you never looked at the biogeochemical cycles being off, the carbon, the nitrogen cycle? What does acid rain do to the fulvic acid in the soil, right? What does it do to the fungal hyphae? What does it do to the acidic and alkaline microbes? How does that affect mineral uptake in your produce? Just all these questions, right? Because I think a lot of people think like food is medicine. It's like today, food really isn't medicine.
True. Which is too bad too, because it should be so simple, but look how convoluted it's become. We have thousands of diets. We have people fighting against each other because of diet. It's incredible. It's like that. Why is this an argument? I mean, we just argue like a real problem. We got politics. We've got all these problems. And then we're arguing that you eat meat and I eat plants. It's just, it's okay. It's just kind of odd to me. It's a bizarre argument. But I could see it today. It's because they impose the other on the other group. It's like, you're wrong. You shouldn't be doing it. Well, guess what? That's just taking away your right to do it. That's why people are fighting against it. I got a question over here said, I never, no, wait, sorry. What is it? Ramat, can you explain the steps of why you get gray hair? You started to mention it in the last live stream, but you were cut off. You can do it too, Matt, if you want. You know it, right?
Yeah, I do. I think hair loss and gray hair is there's a lot of epidemics. I want to write a blog post about that, because there's a lot of epidemics that I get messages every day, like from men, like, Matt, what do I do about my hair loss? And I think what they're prescribing, I think like Propecia and all these like pharmaceuticals men get prescribed, it really comes down to iron overload to me. And this rusting, it's how we age, right? But we have rusting to the extreme accelerated because acid rain liberates iron in excess amounts, iron and aluminum. And iron and aluminum accumulate everywhere in the body, but when they accumulate up here, then they just rob the mitochondria. They can't produce energy. They don't have enough. They don't have oxygen. Electron chain transport can't happen. So you have less ATP. And for me, anti-aging comes down to lowering stress and increasing energy production. To me, those are synonymous terms. When you do one, you're going to have the other. If you have more energy, you have less stress. If you have less stress, you have more energy, right? So, but if you can take care of the iron, which I would use like blood donation, they used to do leech therapy, but for men, like once a quarter, donating blood. And I would do a gram I have like a Panacea product on MitoLife, but a gram of Shilajit a day, plus blood donation. And then you could add some red light on there, direct topically. And that would be my strategy for hair in general.
Pretty cool. I always tell people to protect themselves with aromatase inhibitors because what happens is the liver is one of the master organs of the body, similar to the kidneys, but the liver seems to be the most important. It's the one that stores the iron. It's the one that cleanses the body. Actually, the liver does 500 different things. The most important are these metabolic enzymes produced by the body. And what happens is as we age, the superoxide dismutase, the catalase, and the glutathione peroxidase, these start to burn themselves down when we're like 18 years old. We produce around 80 micrograms per deciliter in the body, but when we're 80, we only produce 8. So it's a plateau and it goes down quick. Now these break down the most damaging free radicals in the body. So what happens is as we're aging, right, we don't have enough glutathione peroxidase and glutathione reductase to reduce the hydrogen peroxide that needs to be. And then catalase isn't able to do its job. So a catalase comes along and there's not enough of it to break it down into water and urinate it out of the body. So we have graying of hair because the excess hydrogen peroxide builds up and it basically bleaches the hair white. Hair loss, like you said, is an entirely different thing. But when we're talking about graying of hair, it's different. That's why it affects the mustache and the sides of the hair or the top of the hair, all at different rates. Because as you're burning out of these metabolic enzymes, they are stunted in different regions of the body. So you'll see different areas. So the best way of doing it, they've actually found that catalase, raising that is one of the most efficient ways of reversing gray hair, because they even found in the study, even when catalase is applied topically, it reverses gray hair. Somebody said in the comment section, faux tie. The reason why faux tie works so good is the boosting of those metabolic enzymes. You just got to be a little careful with it. Some people that have a weaker liver have a problem with faux tie. It can have a counterindication. So just putting that out there for people.
That was awesome. Yeah, and I always like to look at burn rate. So like what's causing the extreme need for a lot of antioxidants? Because I don't know if you've seen, like in the biohacking community, molecular hydrogen is like trending right now. Like it's really hot. Like everyone's just slamming molecular hydrogen. It's like, guys, you might need magnesium. You might be magnesium deficient. You don't need hydrogen, right? Or you might have too much iron. That's why you're always inflamed. And so I really think that the accumulation of lipofuscin, which is complex PUFA and iron and aluminum, plus calcification, iron overload, these are what increase the burn rate of catalase and glutathione peroxidase and all those. And you can do it all at once, I guess, right? So.
Oh, definitely. But remember, when you raise one, you actually have to raise the other. If you boost superoxide dismutase off the charts, guess what? It's going to dismutate superoxide into hydrogen peroxide, which normally be around 33.8% of a single cell. And now you've got all this hydrogen peroxide floating around in your system with not enough glutathione or catalase to break it down into water. So you're going to gray your hair faster by doing that. So you have to raise certain metabolic enzymes more than others, but you better be careful when you do that. So I usually recommend people start with a weaker superoxide dismutase booster. Don't just immediately jump to Jogulin, aka gynostemma. It's really powerful. It boosts it like 300%. Now, that's a really strong one. So you're looking more like towards the seed buckthornberry or the hawthornberry. Those are very good because they raise it to the natural level where it should be, and it doesn't really go above that. So it puts you at a youthful level. Then you can raise the glutathione peroxidase. You know, your royal jelly boosts catalase. Did you know that?
What about chaga tea? Is that SOD, right?
Yes, but that's pure SOD. It's the same superoxide dismutase that's found in melons. So the hydrochloric acid of your stomach breaks it down before it actually becomes intrinsic and breaks it down into an analog form. So you got to be a little bit more cautious. You might be wasting a lot of your money by doing extra chaga because it really won't get into where it needs to become actual. That's why all superoxide dismutase supplements are enteric coated, because they have to pass the hydrochloric acid of the stomach, and it's a very weak molecule in the gut, and it'll be broken down quick.
It's like systemic enzymes. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone said read vitamin E over 400 IU daily can cause an excess of blood flow through the body and potential brain hemorrhaging. Is this BS? I think it's BS. There's not a lot of scare studies on omega-3, and there's tons of scare studies on vitamin E. And so for me, that just says that there's a suppression going on. I even have vitamin E suppression books. It's literally in the title, the suppressed vitamin E therapy. It's a suppressed vitamin. It really is. Yeah. I'm low in D. Let's see. Um, any issues on using only infrared or only red? Anything that is more important than the other? What are the different applications? I would ideally try to get them both, usually 660 and 850 nanometers. Those are in most lights, like Mito Red, Midwest Light Therapy. There's a billion of them now. And June's trying to sue everyone. It's really funny. For, it's ridiculous.
Wow.
How is he, confused. How is he generating the vitamin D? Someone asks. Do you explain that, or?
Well, what happens is, vitamin K is made by bacteria. It's made in our larger intestine. So we actually produce it by bacteria. Vitamin D is different. It's a hormone. So what happens is your body will generate this hormone. It'll naturally make it, very similar to how it makes it extremely fast when your body comes in contact with the sun. The same thing. Matter of fact, they even found that when chlorophyll, when consumed, goes through your blood, and then when it interacts with coenzyme Q10 and hits sunlight, your body makes all kinds of iron. It makes an element from other elements. So it's the same process. So you can get plenty of vitamin D. If you were to put your hand in the sunlight for 5 minutes, you'll get vitamin D. So if you're low, don't worry about it. Now, if your body is having trouble making it, then yeah, you're probably going to need to spend some time in the sun, but not much. We're talking about 5 minutes on your hands. That's how little bit of light you need nowadays. So I'm not saying you don't have to worry about completely avoiding the sun. If you need to raise your vitamin D, go get some, but it doesn't take very much. Matter of fact, I bet you could just take your shirt off and get it in 1 minute. So that's how cool you can get it. There's been cave explorers who have dedicated themselves to exploring caves and living underground for 6 months out of the year. And 1 year, there was a Russian guy that did it for a living, and he spent 1.5 years underground. And you're not getting any sun. And his levels of vitamin D never change. And he's not down there eating and taking vitamin D supplements. This is so long ago. This is before they even realized you needed vitamin D. So
that's incredible. Yeah, and I think people miss that there's a systemic blood effect to light, and then there's a local effect. And unfortunately, ultraviolet light increases nitric oxide, causes vasodilation. People are like, "Oh, that's a great thing." Not necessarily. I don't think nitric oxide is as good as they say. It's inflammatory, especially in combination with other things like peroxynitrites that non-native EMFs increase. They combine with NO, and you get something that's not good. So can you talk about autism? I think there's a huge aluminum connection there, right? I mean, I would slam the orthosilicic acid water personally, but
yeah. Autism is a strange one because they actually find that they've never had a single case of autism with the entire group of Amish. And the Amish people live pretty naturally, as much as off the land as you can get. They don't do a lot of things that we do, and they've never had a single case of autism. That's pretty incredible. Autistic kids have a tendency to put things in a straight line, so they don't have a cross-lateral pattern in the brain that doesn't get disrupted. So they've actually tried to attribute it to maybe mothers not even rocking their children. They're still really trying to figure out autism. Certain things really help it. Matter of fact, my friend that owned a gym locally, his name was Eric Weaver. His kid had autism. I said, if you mind, I want to experiment, right? Why not? It can't get worse. So I gave chlorella, cilantro. I treated it like a heavy metal detox, and the kid got a lot better. And this is a really young kid. So perhaps some heavy metal toxicity might have something to do with it. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of experiments still that need to be done.
That's awesome. Yeah, and a lot of people don't know that magnesium is a natural heavy metal chelator. So magnesium will take care of cadmium, lead, arsenic. So just magnesium bicarbonate and shilajit would be like my premier heavy metal chelators right there. This is a funny comment. Someone says, they're agreeing way too much given their dietary differences. It's like fighting, right?
Yeah, we can throw down. We got to do it, I guess. They want the drama, but first, I got a question. Somebody asked me, Jeremy asked me, how did I meet Marcus? So
yeah,
I'll answer that real quick. For those that are on your side listening, that's Marcus Rothkrantz that they're talking about. Now, I don't know, people might not follow him, but he's a funny guy. He's a crazy guy. He does a lot of artwork and painting for all the Vegas slot machines. He made a movie in the 80s called Till the Ends of Time. And he became very wealthy from that. And then all of a sudden, his wife at the time became with a rare genetic disease that ate away her bones. And then what happened is she wanted to go the medical route, and he didn't really like that. He didn't want that, but she didn't listen. So she moved back in with her mom, and he just kind of financially supported her. And I met him when I went to Vegas through a friend named Mary Margaret and Carrie. They introduced me to him because I only lived like a block away, and he was a vegan at the time. And it was fascinating because he was super into it, and he was talking about like, oh man, you ever hear of this raw thing? I go, have I heard of it? I'm completely raw. So I got him going 100% raw foods, and he was just like all about it. He even made a video for a while. It was called the Raw Food World Tour, where he wanted to get raw to the entire world. He wanted to promote it to like the next level and get everybody to go raw vegan for like as long as they could. And he loved it. All of his allergies went away. He threw away his reading glasses. He had massive health problems. Like he lost almost all of his teeth when I met him. They were all full of mercury and silver. I mean, they were just a wreck. He had to go get all of his dental work pulled. He was completely broke from his wife. He had like no money. I would bring him to the gym, and he'd use my stepdad's gym card just so he could afford to go work out with me. Like he had nothing. Now look, he drives a Lamborghini. He has multiple cars, multiple homes. He's got everything. So you talk about prosperity, man. That guy knows how to do it. When it comes down to how to invest and make money, go look up Marcus. He's got it down, man. He's a cool guy. I like it.
That's awesome. Yeah, he's definitely funny. It's he has some good material. I like his. I think my favorite video from him was the acid alkaline pH myth, and he had that one guy on that he met at the health food store. I think we've talked on the phone about that. The guy with like the kind of long hair, you know. Yeah, that was a great video because I think there's so much BS about acid alkaline. It just gives me a headache. What is Raw Matt's thoughts on Dr. Ray Peat? You haven't really looked into him yet, right? I sent you that resveratrol article, but that's about it.
Right. Yeah, no, that's pretty cool stuff because it was mentioned that it was very phytoestrogenic. Mm-hmm. So that was causing a lot of the problems with people as well, because we're already kind of estrogen dominant now with all the cupcakes and pastas and garbage that we eat. So we get like, we don't sit around, and the more body fat we build, the more estrogen we build up. And then we eat things out of plastic. We drink water out of plastic, and these xenoestrogens mimic estrogen inside the body. So we're doing all these estrogenic things. We're not working out. We're eating out of plastic. And then all of a sudden we have this weak estrogenic dominant system with nothing that builds testosterone in people. So it's kind of a mess right now. Everything's the opposite of the way that it should be. So that's no good. That's what I think.
Yeah. Someone has a lot of pulled muscles in their back. They started to foam roll, and it's been a little less, but I still get them here and there. What do you recommend for pulled muscles in the back?
You need to ice. Icing isn't just good for anti-inflammation and bruising. Icing is good all the time. You can do it every few hours, but don't go over 15 minutes. Have you ever heard of this guy that walks around in the pure ice? He submerges himself in ice, and he can walk Mount Everest in shorts. He's not cold to anything. The reason he can do that is because he's destroyed his nerve endings, and he doesn't feel cold anymore. And you can do that. You can over ice yourself. And sports therapists know this. That's why they tell you ice for 10 to 15 minutes. And that's it. The reason why is because icing over that really destroys the nerves in your body. And I wish I would have known that. I would have actually done that to my shins rather than beating them with a hammer. So if I only knew. But so that's another thing too, is we need to like go, okay, well, what's the best thing that we can do? Well, it depends. It depends on the injury, how deep it is. If you have a low frequency ultrasound machine, set it on 1 megahertz and put it on your back. If it's too expensive and you don't have one of those, DMSO is a really good one. Just be careful. Don't apply a bunch of DMSO and then throw a shirt on. Make sure it dries, because it's the most powerful solvent on earth. There's a lot of things. So I recommend ice. If you don't have ice and you want to go the warming route, take DMSO topically. Get about a 70-cent diluted, because the skin can be overheated and then it's too sensitive to keep applying it. You want to apply it in the morning and then at night. And then once you've acclimated to it, you can apply it more. That's really cool. And then again, if you low frequency ultrasound machine would be good. And then systemic enzymes. Heal yourself inwardly and outwardly at the same time, and your recovery can be very, very quick. So if you have anything that you want to throw in, go ahead.
No, I think that's awesome. Yeah. I have a friend that sells the Infratonic 9 Chi machine. It's like stochastic frequencies. And it's something I feel. Equestrian centers have used it on their horses to repair crazy injuries, like very quickly. So it's a really, I love frequency devices, and I think they have some application that's pretty cool. How often should one take aspirin and how much? So I guess this is probably a question for me, but I would say I average like 3 grams a day of aspirin. Sometimes I'll take, 1 or 2. Sometimes I'll take a day off. I think as long as vitamin K is coming in, then aspirin isn't an issue. And so, I take that anyway. But yeah, I usually take 3 at a time. And aspirin inhibits lipolysis. And so by inhibiting the release of free fatty acids, you really decrease inflammation and stress and increase energy production. What about vaccines? Your thoughts on that?
Oh my gosh. Okay, we're moving to the horrible territory, huh? Great. So now I can be hated here too. I think that a kid should probably be vaccinated for particular vaccines based on the danger rate of the infection. If there's a horrible thing going around like polio, which has been eradicated, obviously the kid should be vaccinated. If you're vaccinating the kid for the flu, that's absolutely pointless and ridiculous. There's far too many. They're not necessary. They're overburdened, and they're making the government tons of money by doing it. And it's the exact opposite of what they're telling you. It's just this mess. It's just that people don't understand it, so they just keep throwing it at you, and they mess up with vaccines, and you never hear about them, right? And then just think, one vaccine, you can investigate one. Let's say you can't go with the MMR vaccine because that's 3 in 1. So let's just say that you wanted to go and get your kid vaccinated for one thing. When you start to read what the actual potential for side effects are, you're like, okay, well, it's quite low. I guess it's pretty much worth it. But we're not talking about the one side effect that the kid might have. We're talking about the long-term effects of what happens from a vaccine. What do they contain in them that disrupt your microbiome? What are they destroying as far as bacteria is concerned? Do you notice that people have continuous candida problems and they can never get over it because they're constantly like, their bacteria is messed up. They can never regrow and regain the bacteria that they need. These are from vaccines. What else can do it and destroy it perpetually? That's why they used to link them to mercury, because mercury can leach itself and bind itself and latch it on inside the body, and it won't get rid of it. Mercury embeds itself inside the system. And that's what things like MSA are. That's a multiple syndrome atrophy. They're mercury toxicity, because when it gets in, it binds to the lipids and follows the fat where it can connect into the spine and embed itself in the bone. That way that's why vaccines last most of your life, for most of the big vaccines anyway, because they contained mercury. And then they started people getting sick from them. So they just started removing the mercury and said, now they're safe. What the hell? They're still extremely toxic. That's why people die from them. Matter of fact, if you think they're safe, go get all of them at once. You will die. There's a reason they space them out, because they're so toxic, you'll fucking die if you have them all. So why in the world do you trust that it's safe when they're like, oh, you got to space them out? Well, question, why do you have to space them out if they're so good and healthy for me and safe? Because they're not good, healthy, and safe. Get them if you need to. Get the major ones done. Get the ones that are going to cause your kid to die. Don't get the trivial little tiny things that don't make any sense. It's just, there's no point. There's none. It's hard because today they're pushed so much. And anyway, I could go on forever about vaccines, but that's just the most simplistic way of looking at it that I can give without going all science.
I fully agree. Yeah, I interviewed Talia Cruz, and I think she's like one of the world's experts, all self-taught, which is always the best. And I had a whole podcast on vaccines on Mida Life Radio, and it was really great. She gave a lot of great resources, a lot of great websites, and a lot of great statistics that you can look up. That are facts. So, someone said, ask him about fructose fruits versus starch. So I guess fruit sugar versus starch sugar.
Well, fructose, we have a certain amount that we can absorb at a time. If I give you an example of protein, we can absorb pretty much around 21 grams every hour to 2 hours. A little bit more than that, sure, if you're working out, you can assimilate tons all at once, but we're talking about a general assimilation in one meal. Same thing happens with fructose. Once you've surpassed about 2 to 3 bananas, your fructose limit was reached for that meal. But if you spread it out during the day, you can obtain more fructose throughout without an issue. Matter of fact, one of the largest studies that's ever been done with how much fruit we should eat was done in London, and it was done with 65,000 different people. And they wanted to find out how many servings of fruit should you have, which would be good and balance your fructose ratios and everything. So they took like 10,000 people, and they said, okay, here we go. You eat 1 serving of fruit, and then the next group of people, you have 2 servings, next 3. And they went all the way up to about like 15 servings of fruit, something ridiculous. And what happened is they found that the average person needs around 9 to 10 servings of fruit every single day, because they were healthier than the version that had that before. So what I mean by that is the ones that ate 9 were healthier than the one that ate 8. The ones that ate 8 were healthier than the ones that ate 7. So it went to about 10 before diminishing returns hit, and there was no more benefit. The excess fructose, when you're consuming it at one meal, make it more glycative. There's a very, very close relation to glycation and excess fructose in the system. So it ages the body exceedingly fast. So you don't want that, is where starch really doesn't seem to have that. That's why we make amylase in our saliva. It's to really help break down starch. Fructose really doesn't have that. So you have like a cell receptor, kind of like with malic acid and citric acid. So you eat a bunch of apples. A matter of fact, what will happen is the pectin and the malic acid of a cell will be filled very, very quickly, and you won't need any more. You'll just be eating for calories at that point, and everything else you'll just run to the bathroom and get out of you. So that's a good thing about it. But fructose really doesn't seem to have that. You have to kind of wait till you go to the bathroom. That's why you have like a laxative effect, because your body's like, get rid of it. I don't need that. Starch really doesn't do that. So starch is a little healthier to overindulge in, as where fructose is not. And starches can put on weight better than fructose will. Fructose is more of a slower sugar, or it should be when it's found in foods, as where starches depends. You can take a starch like a potato and refrigerate it, and it'll convert that starch into a slower digesting starch. It'll change the type of starch that it is. So starches can be changed, as where fructose is pretty much always the same. And we do have a limit. So I usually tell people, just go minuscule, just supplement and just get some fruit in each meal. You'll be good.
Yeah, I love it. And if they can't, like I'm in a place where it snows and there's no fruit growing here, then honey is my fruit replacement. And that's a worthy replacement, right?
Yes. Oh, honey's incredible. Yeah. But people won't agree to that, but I don't really care, because we're talking about one of the highest enzymatic foods on earth. As a matter of fact, I had a friend named Bill who had cancer, and the chemotherapy knocked out his salivary glands. He can never produce saliva again. And I told him, honey. Put honey on every food that's a carbohydrate, and you can actually watch it break down. You can put honey on oatmeal, and you can watch your oatmeal dissolve. That's how many enzymes are in honey. They replace the enzymes that are lost in your saliva for breaking it down. Similar to how I tell people to take apple cider vinegar when they're eating meats, because the hydrochloric acid will be boosted and stimulated, because we don't make as much acid as a carnivore does. So we're helping our body replace a lot of the acid that's required for these meats and trypsin. So you're adding in things to help digestion. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
I love it. Can we talk a little more about exercise and the stress it causes on the body, fight or flight response, if it helps detox? It's my understanding, like high intensity, short intervals or whatever are better than cardio. Like cardio can be pretty detrimental, and it shrinks the organs over time.
Me, you asking me? Yeah, well, yeah, that's why I tell people don't do cardio for more than 45 minutes, because what happens is cortisol levels start to spike, which is a stress hormone. And then all of a sudden, that very thing you're trying to burn, body fat, it starts storing body fat, because it's a stress to the body. It's a danger. That's why cortisol levels spike. So exercise should never go over 45 minutes. That's why you damage yourself. That's when hormones like testosterone aromatize or flip into DHT. And then there's too much testosterone in the blood, and your body's trying to protect itself. And then all of a sudden the DHT builds up and you start losing your hair. And everything happens that's dangerous when you over exercise. It's better to exercise less than it is to exercise more.
I agree. Yeah. Dry skin, what do you recommend?
Me? Oh, well, vitamin E is one of the best, because it just doesn't spread very good. But I use vitamin D because it also protects you from skin damage. I pulled skin damage out of my face with excess vitamin E. Usually the oils that are thinner seems to be good, like jojoba oil, Jogoba. That's a very good oil, because it penetrates the skin at a very deep level, but it stays on you for quite a while before it gets absorbed. So you kind of look a little strange for the first hour walking around. It looks like you just bathed in oil. kind of bizarre looking. So I'm more of a fan of oils. Obviously, I also like large particle hyaluronic acid. It doesn't penetrate as deeply, and you would normally think that would be good, but they actually found that the reason a low particle one made you get rid of wrinkles is because it's actually causing inflammation, and the inflammation made your wrinkles go away. So the large particle version is the best, and it helps your body rehydrate, because we have a very small portion of hyaluronic acid in our body, and as we age, it diminishes. And hyaluronic acid is one of the main components that are in our eye. So we want to remain and continue making hyaluronic acid. But a great way to rehydrate is by actually putting it topically on the skin, because it's broken down if you consume it, like most things are. Hydrochloric acid just kills it. So topical hyaluronic acid, like a 1% solution, get your face damp, or after a shower, apply some. It'll rehydrate your skin like crazy. It's really good. Those are my favorite. What about yours?
Mine would be probably bicarbonate-rich, acid-free drinking water, getting a dual KDF shower filter, stop showering in tap water, and 3, probably taking care of the trace mineral deficiency. So getting the Shilajit in, and then vitamin E. I take 4 vitamin E capsules a day, sometimes 8. One day I even took like 15, 16, and just had a really good day. So I haven't found an upper limit yet for vitamin E, just that it increases athletic endurance. So could chop wood longer or whatever. So so someone's trolling here. This is a good question. Can you talk about the complete lack of nutrient bioavailability in plants? So that's like the big carnivore argument. They say none of the nutrients in plants are absorbable. And I come to the middle ground, right? I think my personal belief system is that we need animal and plant. We're omnivores, and plants are a natural part of the human diet. The carnivore people, like Joel Saladino, Sean Baker, are saying that plants are not a part of a human diet. They're completely toxic, and we don't absorb them, and they rip up the gut. So I think they're coming from a vegetable perspective, and they're not looking at fruit. Like fruit and vegetables are totally different, right? So.
Oh, of course, they're talking about greens, and greens are a very minuscule part of the diet. They shouldn't even really be a base of any diet. Yeah, I'm a plant eater that doesn't eat plants. That's why I've succeeded and most people fail, because they're doing large bowls of salads which have tons of oxalates. They have tons of cellulose, and they're not breaking them down. There's tons of heavy metals because of the soil. There's tons of cadmium in there. There's all these problems, and then they're getting into the cruciferous vegetables, and these are horrible things on digestion. Greens are very minuscule if they're part of the diet at all. And then if you do consume them, you can't just go out and eat them raw. They should be either dehydrated, blended, fermented, steamed, juiced, anything but raw. Don't eat that raw. It's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, 2 minutes. Oh, I guess I get to stream again. I'm getting the 2-minute warning here. So for you on Instagram that we haven't answered the questions, just ask them again. Are you on Instagram? Someone asked.
Me? Oh, I don't have any social media. I hate that shit.
I love it. That's great. And someone made a compliment. It's so cool to hear a vegan and carnivore. Well, I'm not a carnivore, but omnivore having a friendly, healthy conversation on the internet, right? That's what I'm saying.
That's rare, isn't it? That's crazy. I'm gonna get coconut water. I'll be right back.
Okay. When I meet surfers, beach people, they have age spot, lipofuscin spots concentrated in the area under their eyes. Why could this be? I think it's just iron accumulation, and iron can accumulate anywhere in the body. There's probably reasons why it accumulates in some parts of certain people's bodies, not others. But yeah, when that excess iron combined with UV light and aluminum, they're going to get those age spots. And yeah, surfers, beach people, I mean, they're probably eating PUFAs, right? They're going surfing, and then they're going to their favorite, whatever place to eat, right? Fast food. All right, 40 seconds. Let's see. I know Matt says orange juice is an aromatase inhibitor. What other foods are? I have citrus allergy, so I can't do oranges. I'm going to restart this live. Can you answer this in a second, Matt?
Yeah.
Okay, 1 second. I'm going to do this. Let's see. So I don't have to. Okay. Here we go. Almost live. It's gonna be like a marathon. Okay. All right, we're going. So the last question was, what are other aromatase inhibitors? I promote orange juice, even aspirin's an aromatase inhibitor, but someone's asking they're allergic to citrus. So what are other good ones?
Okay. Probably one of the strongest is grapeseed extract. And the reason I really like grapeseed extract is it does so many other things as well. It's not just an aromatase inhibitor. It's such a powerful, strong antioxidant that actually recirculates in the body for about 3 days. So you only need, as far as it works for aromatization, actually only about 24 hours. But the antioxidants themselves work for literally 3 days in the body. So you don't have to take that much. It's really good. And it does so many more things. Then you get into like olive oil and olive leaf extract. Those are my next favorite because you can do them constantly. I'm talking about the leaf is more potent than the oil. And you really don't want to do a lot of oils anyway. Frankly, that's just my own opinion. If you're going to do an oil, obviously olive oil is one of the best on earth, in my opinion. But I just don't like processed things. But regardless, it does work. It is an aromatase inhibitor. But olive leaf would be next. And then hops. Hops works pretty good, but it is a phytoestrogen, a pretty strong one. That's what makes males pretty impotent if they drink too much alcohol, because beer contains so many hops. So it makes you like, oh, I don't work and I'm real tired. That's why. But there is an ingredient. It's a supplement. It's called Hop Factor X, and it's specifically induced to boost nuclear factor kappa B, and it has actually been shown to be a powerful aromatase inhibitor. So that's also really good. Also, pomegranate is another good one. Pomegranate juice seems to work a little less efficient, but also pretty good. Are cloves good? Yes and no. They're extremely high in antioxidants. They're probably the highest on earth. So cloves are good, but they also activate mTOR. So they're not a longevity thing unless you're just eating it during a meal. Otherwise, you don't really want to just say, oh, I'm going to have a drink and then slam some chai tea, because chai has some clove in it and it will turn off your longevity genes, and you don't want that. So yes and no. Sorry, I just answered that real quick.
No, that was awesome. I actually get this question a lot. What do I do for dry scalp and dandruff? I get a lot of dandruff questions.
The skin kind of likes a little bit of acidity. But it's also not very hydrating. So probably one of the best ways would be apple cider vinegar. You can, before you go in the shower, take like a bristle brush and like rub your scalp. It'll break up the dry skin. And then when you get in, apply some apple cider vinegar with some water, rub it all over, and then just rinse it out. That will pretty much deactivate it. But but it's coming from a candida. It's coming from a fungal perspective. So you're feeding candida, and it's coming out of the skin the best way that it can, which is through the scalp. So usually that's probably what's causing it. So polyphasic eat, because that autophagy will jump in and that'll break down that excess sugar, and then you'll be processing it. You won't get much dandruff, and then all of a sudden you'll apply some topical and it'll just get rid of whatever's left. That's probably the easiest way. But if it's not really dry skin, it's actually that's causing it, because you can actually have a lot of sebum on the skin, oily scalp, and still have dandruff. So you got to kill the fungus first. That's what mostly does it.
Now we're going to trigger even more people, because not only are we, one's plant and one's animal now, but I promote, eating frequently, and which I used to promote and I don't anymore. And so people are going to trip out now, right? I mean, the thing we mostly agree on is sugar. We both love sugar. So,
well, I'm talking about problems with health. You need. If you got a problem, you got to fix it. I don't really care if you want to eat breakfast. That doesn't matter what you want anymore. You need to clean yourself up. You can go back to eating every meal that you want to before. A bodybuilder eats 7 times a day. But if they get a health problem, they should probably stop until they're better and they can go back to that. You know what I mean? I'm not against everything. It's like you have to use certain things at certain times. That's just the way that it is.
Yeah, context is often missing in the discussion with health. Little access to bicarbonate. I take MagTech every morning and night. Does that suffice? Yes. Yeah, that's 3 forms of magnesium. That's fine. Let me see. How long should we take Shilajit and the systemic enzymes? Pretty much indefinitely. I would say the Shilajit is higher priority, but they're both important. Does taking the enzymes too much affects the body's natural ability to make their own? That's a good question for you, Matt.
No. Well, what happened is you're trying to save your enzymatic reserves. Think of a child when you put a little piece of something in their mouth, they've got drool running down. They make access enzymes. These are digestive enzymes, not metabolic or systemic. So what happens is as we age, we're eating dry, cooked food all the time, and your body's constantly pumping up amylase. Well, as we age, like every organ in the body, the one that produces these enzymes also starts to shut down. So we run out of our ability, bodies. So we're helping these organs do something so that they don't have to. That's the benefit. So the more of these cooked foods you're eating, you're basically just saving your organs. It's not that you're saving the enzymes, you're saving your organs that are making these enzymes. That's the key. That's the benefit of doing it.
I love it. So my friend asked, can you guys go over what raw Matt eats? You just eat the sun, right? I thought you were a breatharian, but
In 2001 or two, whenever the hell I went raw, I just ate everything. I just ate it all. Like my friend was just giving me food. I had a whole fruit cake that I didn't realize it was for everybody. I ate the whole thing. So I was pounding thousands of calories and I was going up in weight, which was good because I wanted to fight at a different weight class. And then what happened is I got so into it that I was like, okay, I guess we're fruitarian. So I went mono-fruitarian, where I was eating twice a day as many fruits as I could. Look at that beast. And then after I after I went mono-fruitarian, I did it for about 2 years. And it was okay. I was doing weird things. I was doing marathons and all these unique things that I had never done before because I had all this new energy. So I went back and started doing like the gourmet version. And I still stuck to just eating lunch and dinner. That was pretty cool for a while. Then I did some more experiments, and I wanted to do a lot of cleanses and detox, and because I wanted to recommend what people should do and what they shouldn't. So I messed up a couple times, and I did good sometimes. So I really know what worked now. And then I narrowed my diet down to being the best on fruit that you can do is wake up and have a smoothie. The reason why is because you can't really fuck a smoothie up. You know what I mean? You can't, if it tastes horrible, just dump some more honey in. You know what I mean? You can't really make it bad. So you can get all the herbs in. If shilajit tastes like you just reached in the toilet and grabbed some food, that's what it tastes like to me. It's horrible, horrible. So I mask it by putting it with other things. I break it down and I go, okay, I can mix in all my herbs and I throw it into one smoothie and I drink it down. Now the rest of my day, I can consume calories. So my next calorie source would come in the form of coconut, mature coconut, not the Thai young coconut. That's not anabolic at all. If I want to get calories in, I'm a fruitarian, and fruits don't have many calories. It's why fruitarians waste away, because nothing's anabolic and they have to eat all the time. And then they're eating tons of sugar all the time. So it's counterintuitive to what they want. So I eat a lot of coconut. And the mature coconut, I can slam one of those things. It's got 1,400 calories and it's made me hungry. So literally within about 2 hours, I'm starving and I'm ready to eat again. So then I reached more towards the sweet fruits. I can do some mango, or my personal favorite would be mamey sapote. It's a very starchy one, and the starches really stack on the weight, and it's not very sugary. And then I'm ready for a dinner. So what I'll do is I'll do the most hybridized greens that I can right now. I'll get like the baby greens, the baby lettuce and the baby greens, none of the cruciferous, and then what I'll do is I'll just throw it in a bowl, about half a bag, not much, but I'm making a base. I'll throw in about 2 avocados, and then I'll make kind of a dressing, but I'll make it mostly fat. I keep my protein meals away from my fat meals for glycation reasons. The higher fat with the higher proteins glycate more, and it doesn't matter if they're raw. It still is the case. Like one of the highest nuts and seeds on earth glycated naturally are pine nuts. Tofu is a very glycotic food. It's nowhere near red meat or fish, but it's very glycotic. So what you do is you want to be a strategist. So you don't want to age yourself by eating a meal. So I space them out now. That's why my protein in the morning will be like in a smoothie form. And then my next one will be a carb. And then my next one will be a sugary fruit, higher in protein. And then my next one will be a fat. And then the fat at night, if it makes you lethargic, it doesn't matter. And it gets you some more calories. So that's if you want to stay raw. If you want to be vegan, that's the easiest thing on earth, because you're allowed cooked starches. And then you can just go crazy up in weight. That's probably what I'll do next. Like I kind of plateaued at about 144 pounds raw. Now I'm going to go vegan, and I'm going to stack some weight on. You'll watch. You'll be shocked at how much a vegan can go up, because eating quinoa and some grain. Oh my gosh. I'm not a fan of grain, but my God, I can probably put on 20 pounds of mass.
Yeah, I just asked you about potato, because I eat a lot of potatoes, and There's that keto acid thing that's always fascinating to me, that the keto acids in potatoes, it's in some other foods as well. If you just look up PubMed searches of keto acids, you can find a list of foods that they're in. But those bind to excess ammonia in your body and will make the essential amino acids. And so I think potatoes are like a quasi protein source. I wouldn't use them as the sole protein source, but they're pretty good.
You would be surprised. Oh, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah.
You would be surprised at how good potatoes are. They are a staple food group in many places on earth. Think about it. If potatoes weren't good for you, when the potato famine hit Ireland and they lost their crops of nothing but potatoes, they died, right? So that means that those people were getting their caloric base and living because of potatoes. That's how strong potatoes are. Their source of food and nutrients were nothing but root vegetables to live on, and they did it. And the second those potatoes died from a blight, they died as people. They starved to death. So that means that there was no other foods for them to eat to survive on. They lived on potatoes. What do you think of that?
That's pretty incredible. Someone asked thoughts on the Viome stool test to find out more about your microbiome health. Do you think it's a good idea?
Kind of a waste of money. I would rather spend that on a hair analysis test and a blood test. The reason why is because you can kind of see exactly what's going on, is where the microbiome changes so frequently. Like, the microbiome adjusts based on your daily habits. So if you start having a smoothie and you change your smoothies every day, like, oh, I want cherries as my base, or I want plantains as my base, your microbiome is going to be changing. So it could be different in 1 week than it is to the week prior. So it's kind of an expensive test to really get nothing from it. You know what I mean? They'll say, oh, you need more of a microbiome. Well, okay, eat more diversity then. But I don't eat much diversity. So I'm not really too concerned with the microbiome health. You know what I mean? I still never get sick. When do I get sick? I never get sick. I don't get unhealthy. I don't catch anything. My microbiome, by a normal doctor that would test it, would be considered horrible probably. Because for years I was a monofruitarian. I would eat like two food groups a day. Remember, I lived 6 months on nothing but honey. So there's, my microbiome wouldn't be very diverse compared to the average person. So I would say that a hair analysis would get you more important information. It would tell you what your diet is exactly lacking and what it was doing based on the length of your hair. It would be like, oh, what you were doing 6 months ago really was working, but now it seems like you're deficient and really low in, say, iron. Pick anything. But I'm just saying that it's more precise based on what there is, and it will show you stores of heavy metals. So let's say that you're eating a lot of cabbage and your cadmium levels are real high. It'll warn you on that, as where a microbiome test will not do that. So you'll get more out of a hair analysis test.
That's awesome. And I would say, or the full Monty iron panel, and get your iron. Everyone has iron poisoning because we live on an iron planet. We all so that's a good choice too. Let me see. Someone says, if he agrees things like honey, etc., can be beneficial, why is he fruitarian? Ethical reasons? Honest question, not trolling. So,
well, I mean, I eat raw foods. Like, I have enzymes in everything that I eat. So honey would help break it down, but I don't want it to break down. Well, I'm good with the enzymes that are in there. Plus, the coconut would be my main calorie source, and that's lipase to break that down. And coconut's more assimilated like a carbohydrate anyway because of the medium chain triglycerides. So, though I am a fan, I don't need to eat certain things all the time. Honey's cool, but I can't harvest it anymore. The bees that I got it from that lived outside over here, they either packed up and moved, or they're gone. Since I moved back to the desert, they're gone. And that was the only place where I would harvest my honey from. So yeah, I don't want to just buy it from the store. I got a couple gifts though. Somebody bought me some avocado honey for Christmas. I haven't dove into it yet, but
yeah, I remember you said you were harvesting honey without any tools, right? Just by hand, just walking up to the hive and getting it.
I had a video on it, but it's all my old YouTube stuff is just gone now. So I've got to kind of reestablish myself online. The reason I'm coming back out, everybody, is because I am watching the absolute trash that's information online today being spread like a wildfire. And it is so awful to watch. We've got
Rob Bliss.
No, I was going to say like the vegetable police. Never been healthy yet. Still promoting diets, shouldn't do anything. Got a lot of people that really all they've done is fail. Yet, the durian writers, He's failed on every system he's ever done in his whole life, but yet he's still promoting a diet and selling books. It's just absolutely insanity. So I want to exist now to like, come at people and tell them, look, here's the way to do it. If you want to do this diet, here's the way you should do it. If you want to eat meat, here's the things you need to do to counteract what's going to happen. If you're going to be a vegetarian, okay, here's how to counteract eating this. Every diet can have a problem. That's one of the biggest problems that I have is everybody goes, oh, I went vegan and I cured this, or I started eating meat and the paleo diet cured that. It's kind of like, no, it didn't. Shut up for just a minute. Kombucha didn't heal you at all. What happened is you stopped doing what was bad for you, and now you're better. Now you're healthy. That's what did it. You gave up something that was causing you to be sick. So attributing it to what you did do is the wrong approach. It's what you stopped doing that heals you. It's not what you are doing. So a lot of people attribute like, oh, well, I started supplementing MSM and now I'm better. It's like, oh, well, you forgot to tell me that you quit all breads, all pastas, all grain. You know what I mean? They leave a lot out. So that's the one thing you got to do is you need to knock things out of the diet. Don't worry about adding more in. Knock things out and you're going to feel a lot better. You'll be surprised. But make sure to knock things out one at a time. If you do, then you'll know exactly what's messing you up. Most people just drop everything. They go, I need to go immediately. I need to drop this. It's my New Year's resolution to go 100% vegan. It's like, wait, if you do that, you're not going to know exactly what worked and what didn't because you dropped everything. Because that was a mistake I made. I went 100% fruitarian. I was like, wow, I feel good. It's kind of like, well, I don't know exactly what I was doing bad to attribute me not feeling as good as I did when I went fruitarian. So got to be a strategist,
Really good points. Yeah. I'm the anti-diet guy. So I say don't go on any diets.
Yeah.
Just drink Coca-Cola. No, I'm just kidding. What kind of shampoo conditioner do you recommend for preventing hair loss, thicker hair? I get a lot of questions about that. I don't know why, but brands and stuff. I think the one I use is like Evolved, EVOL. Evolved. If you search that shampoo, but I know Morocco Method's good. I don't know. I don't know if they're asking for brands or just type of shampoo or conditioner. Does it matter?
Well, certain ones will be a little bit higher in biotin, or certain ones will have hyaluronic acid in it, so it'll moisturize the scalp more. He's probably talking about some things that might be an aromatase inhibitor, like things that you can topically put on, like that'll like save your hair and also make it thicker, like Jarrow or Johnson and John. I can't remember the names right now. I'll look into it. How about this? How about that one? I can't answer you right now because I don't know the brands, but I'll find out and I'll put it in the underneath the video after this is done and posted, because there's a guy, he's an Asian guy. I think he goes by Hairlocity, and that's his thing. He just loves hair. He studies. He's like, if I had 4 hair transplants, he's like 20. But anyway, besides him being extremely young, he's so dedicated to like getting all of his hair back. He knows the best shampoos and all of it. And I'll just go to his website and check it out real quick and copy and paste what he does.
That's awesome. What's his candida fix? For me, it's sugar and oregano oil, but that's my personal.
Yeah, those are strong though. Oregano's really strong for people. You got to kind of warn them on that one because they'll take it. And they'll grab it in their gut. You know what I mean? So candida can be disrupted in a lot of different ways. I usually tell people sugar is going to feed the candida. So that's usually when you just kind of like back off the sugar or have it in like one meal, setting. Candida is a really thing that's easily fed, but because of that, it's also easily destroyed. Anytime you read a book or see something called a candida cleanse, where it's like, oh, you need to eat this way for months or weeks at a time, that's nonsense. Candida is dead within like 3 to 4 hours. You just need to keep it dead because otherwise you just keep feeding it. Like honey feeds it, it's a sugar, right? So you're just going to keep feeding it if you keep snacking all day long. So be careful. You want to just avoid certain things to help clean the candida. You can do these top internal things like you're talking about, but they're added benefits. It's more along the lines, again, it's like what you're stopping. Don't be introducing sugar all the time because it's just going to keep feeding the candida. So you might do better on like a weaker salad that's full of avocados and then your own dressing that doesn't have any sugars in it. And then the next meal you can have your sugar, but you've negated sugar for one meal. So the more you can do that during the day, the less you're going to feed candida until your balance is back. Take probiotics and slam them down. Tons of them. Probiotics will knock them out quick, especially acidophilus. Now that's an acid-loving bacteria, right? So candida, it'll eat them up. It'll just destroy them real quick, and it's a cheap ingredient. Probiotic lactobacillus acidophilus is probably like $9.99, so really good.
Yeah, and I think there's a huge like endotoxin component. Like it's my current belief or understanding that sugar is good for candida, because if you restrict sugar, it's going to piss it off. Just like a parasite or whatever. It's like you want to slowly get rid of it and not like cut off its source, right? And it'll spread throughout the body if you restrict sugar. But there's all sorts of different. I would say definitely try different things and see what works for you. Who is Matt talking to? This is Raw Matt that I'm talking to here.
Yeah.
A bunch of people asked that just joined. I had a corneal transplant, and I'm required to take 1 drop of prednisone, corticosteroid daily in my eye to help the organ from rejection. There are so many detrimental side effects with prednisone. What to do?
Oh no.
Vitamin E.
Charcoal. Go ahead. You started.
Yeah, vitamin E, and I think we've talked about colloidal silver direct in the eye, right?
Yeah. I've always liked that one. I've always liked that. Hyaluronic acid, activated charcoal, those are always good. Vitamin K. Reason why is because you got to think the eye in the back of your eye. Think about it like a drip system. Your eye gets blood that drips in from the back by like a little tube, and it'll get 1 drop of blood, and it'll constantly be coming into the back of the eye, kind of like the blood-brain barrier. Only 1 blood platelet that passes the blood-brain barrier as it's going in, so it's very selective of what it lets in and out. So that's too much light for me. I can't deal with that. So what happens is the blood that's going into the eye is only as good as the blood that's in your body. So you have to be really careful. So if you have clean blood, you're going to have good eyes. So that's why we always purify our blood. That's why activated charcoal works so good for right now. It'll absorb these weird toxic chemicals that your body doesn't recognize, but it will leave your natural blood alone, and it won't absorb vitamins and minerals. Don't worry about that. It'll absorb what's harmful. So it's a good indicator of something to add. Add 1 capsule and have it 3 to 4 times a day. Spread it out a couple hours. As a matter of fact, have it every 3 hours. Take 1 capsule, and that'll be a good buffer for what's going on. And then the vitamin K and vitamin E will help your blood, and it'll help pull the nutrients through your blood. So it's a catalyst. It carries things in. So that's what's really good about it.
I love it. I would say Shilajit too is better, but I guess that's a little more expensive than activated charcoal. But I'd say it does more, right? The same thing pretty much.
It does. It's more of a transmutative thing, as where charcoal's more absorbative. But like you said, it's very expensive. Yeah, it's harder for people to obtain it, but it's one of the good ones. You know what I mean? It's like pay for your health now or pay later with your health.
Yeah. What are both of your thoughts on the Dr. Amin-Ra protocol? First of all, he's not a doctor. Second of all, he's a quack. And third of all, I almost died on this protocol. So I'm not a fan, but
well, when I read through his protocol, because my wife got the protocol, and I read through the book because I was like, wait, you purchased this? This shit would cost you money? So I wasn't gonna buy it. So I read through it. His drink, okay, check this out. He takes a drink of he mixes chocolate with oh my gosh. If you can see the ingredients in this thing,
it was like 10 amino acid isolated or 12 isolated amino acids from bulksupplements.com.
Okay, so that's pointless. That's isolated trash. So basically what he's trying to do is he's trying to say that like eating isn't enough, and he wanted to get these superfoods in through this drink, and he started making chocolate drinks before his meal, and then his meal was like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. It was insane.
Basically.
Yeah, high polyunsaturated fats, extremely high fat. Peanut butter not only is extremely high in polyunsaturated fats, but it's extremely high in mycotoxins. It's roasted, so it's highly glycated. It has multiple side effects. Peanut butter and jelly completely feed candida. Maybe if you're eating it once a day, like he was doing, he's hoping that autophagy is actually going to cleanse the body of all the damage that he's doing by eating. But what the hell would you want to damage yourself eating so that your body has to now clean it up all day long? That makes no sense. It's so counterintuitive to what's going on. And then he's talking about how he builds muscle mass on this one meal a day, 1,200 calories. Come on. Unless he has like one of the slowest metabolisms on earth while he's working out, which doesn't make any sense either. It doesn't really happen. Now, if you sit around all day on your computer, you can probably get away with doing this, but that's all you can do. You can't move. You can't have a job. You can't go. A friend can't invite you to the rock climbing yard. He can't invite you snowboarding because you're like, no, I only eat one meal a day. I can't do shit because I'll lose all my muscle mass. So you see what I mean? It's a very weird protocol that's not for everybody. Yes, it increases testosterone, but increasing testosterone is not the end-all be-all things, especially for a bodybuilder.
I think he's on Decadurabolin personally, but
well, HGH, I know, because you can see the nodule injections on his stomach on his own website. He forgot to remove them. Brilliant. Yeah, you can literally go and see him flexing his abs, and you will see nodules the size of the tip of your pinky on his gut. That's from injecting HGH, human growth hormone, with little vials into your stomach, because that's where you inject them. That's what he's doing to maintain muscle mass. Like, okay, but at least tell people that's what you're doing, so you're not fucking paying for this really expensive protocol, God knows how much money, for this system that's not going to work for the average person. It just doesn't make any sense.
I think there are a lot of guys on YouTube that have done that, that have done heavy rounds of steroids or HGH, and then looked really good. This is why I say you can look like Hercules and be dying. So I don't care how you look, unless you're like Jack Cruz and you're a total just blob on the beach. But if someone's ripped, I don't look higher at their information. I don't say, oh, they're smarter or whatever. They know their stuff because it worked. I don't know what they were injecting, right? If they were injecting. So that whole argument, like just because someone looks good, right, then they know what they're talking about. It's just, it's not a good way to go about it, because I've gone down that path and it doesn't lead anywhere good. So usually they're just charlatans. Can you guys talk about endotoxin? Have you looked into that, Matt? Endotoxin lipopolysaccharide excess? Because Ray Pete's really big into that. He uses like a raw carrot every day to detox excess estrogen, because it's like a broom. Also spore-based probiotics, like the ones I promote, reduce it. Good. I
use blueberries.
Blueberries, awesome.
Yeah, I use blueberries for that. But yeah, that's cool. I didn't know you did that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I wrote a little blog on endotoxin. I mean, endotoxin is one of those things where I feel like you could spend your whole life researching. Like I just, I don't go too deep down rabbit holes because I'll get lost. So that's why I don't know a lot about one thing. I know a lot about a lot of different things, or a little about a lot of different things. And so, with endotoxin, there's a connection to, like that person was asking, candida. Just Google endotoxin candida. You'll find a ton of links. Google endotoxin Lyme disease, endotoxin Alzheimer's, endotoxin heart disease, whatever. And endotoxin makes everything worse from what I've researched. It makes iron worse. It makes lipid peroxidation worse. Endotoxin increases lipid peroxidation, the oxidation of free fatty acids of PUFAs, by, I think, 27 times. So that's pretty, I mean, you combine that with iron and it's like, okay. And why are you adding PUFAs in your body again?
Yeah, all bad.
Would I be able to take 2 to 3 dissolve-it-all 3 times a day if I'm using the Magnetico, and would it be more effective? I think so. I think that sleeping on a magnetic field makes everything more effective. Last night I watched your video, Matt, on it was the clip from your debate you sent me about how we used to live 900 years, and you had that little screenshot of magnetism. I like that you brought that up. That in biblical times, in the old earth, we were in a different time, but we were in the same body, right? So different pollution now on the earth, but the same earth and the same vessel, right? And these people lived to 900 years old, and that was just, it's been proven, right? So definitely recommend going to his channel and seeing that, because I think a lot of people think yes, even that guy. You had a whole video on that guy that lived to 256 years old.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people have never heard of that guy or thought that it's even possible to live over 200. Right.
Right. And what's good is they have the documented information about him to a T. Matter of fact, one of the generals was so fascinated with him, and he's on the cover of Time magazines himself. And he was so fascinated by Li Chengyin that he took him in and documented his entire program, his entire life, and everything that he did. So we have awesome information about the guy. It's incredible.
I love it. What are your views on choline if he doesn't do cruciferous vegetables? Yeah, I'm a big fan of 300 milligrams of choline a day minimum. I think that's bare minimum for liver health. But I'm not aware of what plants it's in.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, my bad. I heard the question. I'm answering one, and I'm looking for the answer. Do you see the questions that I'm getting here? By the way,
let me see. I think I have to keep clicking live comments. Oh yeah.
You see what I see?
We have 2 chats going. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to answer those too and look up things. I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, it depends. Sometimes I will get a source of it in because I will get it from beets, and I'll use beets because they really help with endurance, and I was experimenting with that recently while doing some boxing. So I was like, okay, let's find out how much endurance it is, because it's supposed to be an 18% increase in boosting endurance factor, right? So they also have the high choline in it. So I guess I was getting it from that source for a while, but I mostly rely on coconut. Coconut is my source of pretty much everything. And the reason why it's so high in most of these elements is because it grows in the ocean water, and ocean water is where all elements come from. Like, if you couldn't grow in a better soil, because it's an unending source of minerals being in the ocean. That's why grasses are so mineralizing, like corn and these things. The reason they have all these nutrients and elements in the grass is because grasses pull everything that's in the soil into themselves. So any type of grass is really good supplementation for people. It's just, I don't really like grasses. I'd rather eat it from a fruit. So that's why, if I lived in the tropics, it would be sugarcane. It would just be sugarcane. That would be my multi-mineral for the day. And instead, it has to be flower pollens or bee pollen or coconut. So those are my sources. But I would say beet would be my most recent source of it.
And someone just said in the chat, choline is turned into TMAO when you eat animal products. So I think this is where a lot of, let's go deeper, because that's elementary school. Like, let's go to like junior high. And like, conversions in the body don't just happen linearly. They happen with nutrition. So whether you convert tryptophan to serotonin to melatonin depends on certain nutrients in there, right? To make those little conversions. And conversions can be rerouted different directions based on nutritional deficiencies. So that statement, like choline is turned into TMAO when you eat animal products, I wouldn't say that's true. That's like a half truth. Like, it depends what nutrition you have. So that's like a very blanket statement, just to say this is going to convert to this, and that's end of story. It's like, no, usually the story in health, and I'm simplifying it, but this can turn into this or this, depending on if you have B vitamins or whatever going on, right? So it's a balance, I talk about how omega-3s are poison, but, can smoked Alaskan salmon from a good source be healthy? I think so, because there's selenium in there to balance out the mercury, right? There's selenium in there, and B vitamins and zinc to balance out the PUFAs. So it's all about a balance, So yeah, I just think when we get into extracts, like we said earlier in the show, supplemental, right? Like supplementing resveratrol, supplementing whole bottles of things. That's where you mostly get into issues with nutrition. So anyway, I just felt like ranting on that. What are your thoughts on carbs plus protein combining for blood sugar regulation? The only issue is protein and fat, right? In my understanding, it's protein and PUFA. It's not protein and saturated fat. That's the problem, because PUFAs will glycate differently than saturated fats.
Only when the saturated fat is heated, that's when it causes the glycation effect. That's why they found that foods at McDonald's are actually less glycated than the same meat cooked slowly over fire. So it's even funnier. Fast food restaurants have less glycated meat than barbecued meat at your house because it's slower. So you actually want heat highly processed. The same with legumes and breaking down the lectins. They require high, fast amounts of heat to break them down. The same thing would be the case for, usually you want the lower fats in the meat so that they aren't as glycated. But yeah, most of the time we really got to be careful. Like I was saying, like look at the polyunsaturated fats inside of pine nuts and look at how high the protein content is. You keep the two together, it's a highly glycotic food. Separate them out, you'll be all right. So we just want to time it a little bit better. Lower fat is usually better on a diet. It doesn't really matter. If you're burning it, it's okay. But remember, I have a higher fat meal, but mine is burned off completely from my exercise. That fat is completely gone. My metabolism is so fast you wouldn't even understand it. So I don't really have to worry because my body fat percentage really never even passes, I would say, around 9%. So when your body's metabolizing fat, you can get away with eating a little bit of fat, but you got to know what you're doing. Like everything, right? You gotta know. I mean, me and Matt here have been studying health. I couldn't even tell you how long. I don't even know.
You're longer than me. I think I have like 10 years now. So
yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of Adam Bergstrom. I think I've told you about him a few times, but on my show, he's been on my podcast 3 times, and he's kind of like opposite views a lot, and I like talking to people like that. You don't have to argue with him. But he's more of like vegetarian minded, and he's a big fan of dextrinized potatoes. Have you heard of that, Matt? Dextrinization, because I don't think there's a lot of info online about that. But supposedly like specific temperatures with potatoes are better. And actually you can do different, like if you do lower temperature, it'll have certain effects. Higher temperature, like 365, it'll have different effects. Have you looked into that or?
No, but it makes sense. Think about the starches of potatoes when they're cooled back down, how they turn into a different type of starch. Mm-hmm. So that it makes sense that different heat would affect it differently. So,
Awesome. Let's see here. Ibuprofen would work if I don't have aspirin. No, I would not take ibuprofen. Don't do it. Let's see. Trying to catch up on the questions here.
Yeah, keep looking. I'll answer a couple here. A lot of folks that I work with are going on long fast for 16-hour averages to release chemicals. What do you guys think? Well, a fast is to break down into ketosis and let your fats, the fat in your body, get rid of them. So sure, that's a good amount of time. You really don't want to go for days and days and days and days. Usually 98 hours is your maximum amount of fasting that I recommend for people to do nowadays, most likely because I've hurt myself by fasting a lot longer than that. So there's dry fasting and there's water fasting. There's all kinds of different fasts. So I really don't care what people do as long as they drop into ketosis during their 3-day stint or 1-day stint. The reason why is because you want your fat to dump these toxins into the bloodstream. And that's the key of a fast. A fast is either a spiritual reason or it's to cleanse your body. So by fasting on, let's say what is that thing called where the master cleanse, where they're making maple syrup with cayenne pepper and lemon. That's not an actual cleanse because you're never really going into ketosis unless you're really overweight and your body is going, oh, I don't have enough calories, so I'm burning the calories while I'm going through it. Then you don't get the headache and you don't feel that detox reaction. So that for that reason, it's good. But if you're an average person, you want to drop into ketosis and just dump as many fat cells as you can and dump those toxins into your bloodstream and just sweep them out as quick as possible. And 16 hours is definitely enough time to do it. Just don't do it like all the time. You kind of, you know what I mean? Cleanse for a little while and then back off on it. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, definitely different viewpoint, but I guess I come at from a metabolic standpoint of just supporting the metabolism. And so getting carbs and protein within 30 minutes upon waking, and that's really critical if you're stressed, and measure the body temperature and pulse upon waking when you're in bed. Take 3 measurements under each armpit, write them down, take the average of the 3, and then track your body temperature and pulse while you're healing your metabolism. And there are different ways to heal, and I think I used to be a fan of ketosis and fasting, and I'm not anymore, just for the fact that most people have an excess of polyunsaturated fatty acids stored in the tissues. And so these are particularly the highly unsaturated fatty acids called DHA, EPA, and ALA. And those are extremely prone to oxidation by heat, light, and oxygen, which our body is full of already. And then you add iron to the mix, and now you're always oxidizing them. And so when you're in ketosis, you break down the fat, but then the PUFAs go out into the bloodstream, and those will cause insulin resistance. Those PUFAs cause diabetes. Sugar heals diabetes. Sugar is the cure for diabetes. White sugar has been used to cure diabetes. It's really the PUFA that causes insulin. PUFA causes candida. PUFA causes every issue, insulin resistance, not being able to use. The only problem with health that I understand is not utilizing sugar. If you can get sugar into the cell and oxidize it through oxidative phosphorylation, make ATP, you have magnesium there for complex 4 and 5. Complex 4 was just discovered as far as magnesium use. You have copper, which most people are deficient in, for cytochrome C oxidase. Or if you don't have that for complex 3, then you have red light to put there in complex 3. And so you have all the complexes firing, you add in sugar, you don't have PUFA. And that's kind of my combination for healing. But I think it definitely takes longer, than ketosis. But I do think ketosis has no physiological benefit. I think it's metabolic stress in the context of today's world. And I think that was a complete switch from earlier last year when I was living the opposite. But I almost crashed. I almost killed myself doing ketosis because I took it to the extreme. Because I wanted to say, hey, if fasting is healthy, let's do 23 hours. And if you do something to the extreme, I mean, it should work better, right? No, it worked worse, and I hit a brick wall. So that kind of led me to my story on PUFA, and I walked away from a $1.3 million a year omega-3 industry, threw in the towel. The snake is still running with it and selling poison to women and children. And I'm out here creating a counter company called MitoLife with PUFA Protect and trying to give the antidote to PUFA, which is vitamin E. And so it's just something that's not talked about enough, and everyone's getting poisoned by omega-3s, and you're poisoned by them your whole life. Now you're going to enter ketosis, and then they're just slamming you. Right. And they cause wrinkles, they cause advanced glycation end products, they cause fibrosis, they cause lipofuscin. They literally make autophagy impossible because they go into the lysosomes of the cell, and the lysosomes are what do autophagy. And so if the cell can't perform autophagy because you have PUFA there, you're just like spinning your wheels trying to do ketosis. But those are my current thoughts. I don't know. It might change, but that's my current, from what I've researched and experienced.
Yeah, very few people that follow a ketogenic diet are ketogenic. Very few know what it takes. Like you said, you had to be extreme to even stay in ketosis. And it's just a complete disaster. Matter of fact, they even promote, don't even drink a lot of times in between. That's even harder on your kidneys because that's really, really rough. A dry fast every single day on top of already being ketogenic and in ketosis, that's insane. You talk about crash and burn, they'll hit it. They'll get there.
Yeah, I do think that's why I like having Adam Bergstrom on my show. And there's multiple paths, right, to healing. He wrote this book called Yes, No, Maybe. Like there's not only one way, and so I might sometimes sound like that with my platform, but I know that, there's multiple paths that people choose to take with healing, with their health. So
yeah, I'm here a lot of times for the people that want to go vegan. And the reason why is because vegans crash and burn about a rate of 85%. That's extremely high. And it's not because they want to. Remember, vegans are this way because of ethical reasons. They don't give a shit about the diet. That's why they'll just eat, Oreos, because Oreos are vegan, right? They don't care. They just care about the ethical reasons. So if I can keep their diet healthy because of making the right choices, then they won't have to crash and burn on the thing that they emotionally want to be attached to. So if they don't get alienated by their own vegans because they decided I'm not thriving on this, something's wrong, it must be the meat because that's the only thing I've removed. It's like, no, it's because you decided to live on bread and pasta and cereal. So of course your body's going to crash and burn. So let me come in and tell you how to actually thrive on the freaking diet so that you can actually maintain what you want to do in life. And most of the time they have no clue about nutrition. It's fascinating because it's such just an emotional move. So you got to be cautious when you're doing anything dietarily based on an emotion. You know what I mean? There's guys today that still do that very thing. They go, well, it makes me feel good, so I do this. And it's like, oh my God, I'm sure steroids make me feel good. Maybe I should do those every day.
Almond Raw style.
Oh, yeah.
um, Someone asked, can you make the magnesium bicarbonate with the Berkey till I get the pristine hydro system? Yes, you can. Um, let's see. You and choline, okay. Beets are high in nitric oxide, aren't they? Yeah, I think they increase it, right?
They do. They increase nitric oxide. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
there's
why.
whether it's good or not. NO, they always said the same people saying resveratrol are good are saying NO is good. So I'm like, I don't know. I'm gonna look into this NO thing a little more.
It's not always good. Here's why. Nitric oxide is a vasodilator. So think about how nitric oxide works. Bodybuilders love it. That's why they drink wine before competition. That's why they do grapeseed extract, because they get those veins to stick out so they're more defined and have definition up on stage. But this vasodilation is it's like everything else. It should be for a very short time, but people kind of live on it. It's kind of like they're just slamming it at all times. So the body doesn't drop back to its normal state. It just runs on overdrive. It's like saying, I'm going to do garlic every single day. What the hell would you want to do that every day for? It's going to raise your immunity up. And now you're going to get an autoimmune disease because it's always running on super high. It's everything can be overdone. You know that. I know that. It's just they take it they go, this is good for me. Well, great. I'll do it every day, 5 times a day. No, that's not how good for you it is. You know what I mean? You can overdo anything, even things that are good. You can overdo antioxidants. You can overdo a lot of things. Why we're not supposed to.
Yeah, well said. Thoughts on melatonin at night? I think my personal view on it now is it's fine to microdose it here and there. I definitely wouldn't do it consistently every night, but there are a lot of supplements now. I know of 2 specifically that use 0.5 milligrams of melatonin. And I think if that's not used daily, there's not really an issue. But ideally, you want to block blue light and make your own melatonin that way.
Yeah. Melatonin is interesting. Did you know it raises testosterone levels?
Wow.
So that's an interesting side effect. But again, you're blocking your body's natural production of it by doing it every time because you're inducing it. Meaning it would be like saying, I produce testosterone, but I'm going to inject natural testosterone. Well, guess what? Your body's natural production is going to stop. It's not going to work as good because it doesn't need to produce it. The same thing with melatonin. I would say once a week would be okay. And then, keep it around 3 milligrams, but don't really go above that and you'll be safe. Don't do it like, oh, I'm probably not going to get good sleep tonight. I should probably take it. And then tomorrow you're going to say the same thing. And then you rationalize and justify. And then pretty soon melatonin every day. Not the way to go. Use it when you have to. Like, I got to work tomorrow early. I need to knock out. Okay. Try a beer. Drink some hops. Don't just slam melatonin all the time. Melatonin is made by the body in the brain. So it's you don't want to mess with it all the time.
I love it. Can you talk about the youth hormones, pregnenolone and DHEA, dosage and long-term effects? So yeah, they're referring to, I interviewed this really interesting guy, Georgi Dinkoff. I should send you the interview. You'd find it fascinating, actually. He's like you, like he reminds me of you, but just a different mindset, a little bit, but similar way of talking, intensity and stuff. And he got me interested in progesterone and pregnenolone supplementation. So he said you're at the top of the ladder and you can't cause problems. They actually increase endogenous production. Like when they gave it to rats, they just started making more of their own endogenous pregnenolone, and the liver just soaks it up. It just loves pregnenolone. DHEA, I think you have to be a little more careful with, because that's further down the ladder. But have you looked into that, Matt? The supplementing those? Specifically like pregnenolone and DHEA?
Yes, they are pretty good. Here's the thing. As males, we naturally produce lots of testosterone. It's the #1 hormone in our body. And that's why it's in danger when that aromatizes and flips, like I was saying earlier, and converts to DHT. Women are very safe from this. You notice women don't go bald. The reason why is because they're 3 hormones away from flipping, right? We got the progesterone, pregnenolone, then testosterone, then DHT. It never reaches that. That's why women are so good at these endurance sports, because their body's naturally producing more body fat than a man does, because they need it. They need it for hormones and they need it to stay healthy. So they're naturally protected. And women live longer than men because they have that good buffer. So it is good, but we don't want to drop into the estrogen state. And so that's why I like those supplements than I would an estrogen form of a plant. For example, what is it? Dragon's blood. That one's extremely estrogenic, but not in the form of a phytoestrogen. It's a very identical hormone to estrogen. So there's certain herbs that you really want to avoid, but what you mentioned are both very good. And there's hormonal, so I am going to say I have a 3-day split. Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and then lay off. Start again Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Those are things that you don't need every single day because your body should be producing a fairly good amount. But like I said, for males, we don't really produce that much of those hormones. So it's good to have a little bit of a buffer and implement them, kind of like adding more vitamin E. It's a good buffer, and it's not really especially in your diet. You're probably not eating many foods that have lots of vitamin E's because they also contain polyunsaturated fatty acids.
Yeah.
There it is.
What is nice and bad for you? So that's something I talk about, and I think a lot of like in the David Wolf crew is a total quack, nickel salesman, retard. He, a lot of those people promote the niacin flush, and that'll actually cause this dumping of fat cells. And so what you're getting is PUFA poisoning when you take a niacin supplement, and you're also getting an increase of histamine and serotonin. And so it's just a smorgasbord, a cocktail of destruction that starts from just taking niacin. A safer form of B3 is niacinamide, and it doesn't have that effect. And what's interesting is non-flushing or flushing doesn't matter, it has the same negative effect on the body. So I would say more niacinamide. That's a lot safer. You still get the NAD benefits and the anti-aging benefits without any of the detriment with that one. So I don't know.
Absolutely. And there's some good supplements out there too for obtaining that one. NAD is like the next level one because of its effect on the sirtuins, the longevity genes. Not all of them, of course, but sirtuin 1 and 3 is the most research run. And NAD really affects those major. I think it's best taken on an empty stomach. It seems to do have more potency then. So just a reminder for people that want to supplement it. It's good stuff though. It's good. It's just expensive. Seems like when they realize that something's good for you, they just jack the prices up big time. They're like, oh man, goji berries was like $2.99 when I started. Now they're $19.99 as the cheapest one you can find. Too bad.
Someone asked, would you take aspirin or activated charcoal for most affordable help? I take Shilajit. Would these help or hinder? I would do aspirin and Shilajit. You don't have to do them together, but I would say aspirin's better than activated charcoal. I know that would shock a lot of people. That's my current belief. I mean, it's obviously different. It's not going to bind to things, but I think for what aspirin does, people need it more than detoxing synthetics. Synthetics, you just drink pristine hydro water and you're going to flush them out. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Let's see. Matt is very mature when listening to opposing views. He respects the guy clearly. Yeah, I'm not like Frank Tufano or some of these crazy people. I mean, yeah, I think Danny Roddy said this, and it kind of clicked in one of his lives. Like being malicious to another person, especially on like YouTube or something, it's a sign of the biochemistry being off, right? Like if someone's a bad person and they're rude and they're just like belligerent, that's a sign that they're like dealing with some brain damage, right?
Well, I've got brain damage, I'm sure. So I don't want to be a keyboard warrior. I'm not a tough guy by threatening you online. That's coward keyboard warrior shit. It seems ridiculous if we don't agree on something. Okay, tell me why. Tell me why you so fervently believe that this needs to be done, and I'll tell you my belief on why it doesn't. That's an argument. To just take it to the next level, like these guys do, like Frank Tufano and Vegan Gains, they're on each other like no other. They've challenged each other to arm wrestling tournaments, to fighting. I mean, it's just the next level of drama because they're so mad at each other, and they make it worse by making another video about the guy. It's like, look, you don't like him, just ignore him, just block him and ignore him. But they can't do it. They can't do it. They have to make a reply. It's so funny. But yet they never debate on the topic at hand. It's their diet that they're fighting against, but they're literally verbally attacking each other. You go, he got fat muscles. Vegan Gains has fat muscle. I don't know what a fat muscle is. Vegan Gains is like, look at his workouts. He works out like a 12-year-old woman. They're not even debating. They're just calling each other names. It's ridiculous. We're here to help people. I could care less about what diet ends up working. I want to know which is going to make people healthier now. That's why we're doing this live stream. If we don't agree with each other, that's tough, because we're here to give advice to you guys so that you can extend your life and help your loved ones who may be sick, diseased, or health. If you know, odds are you know somebody that has diabetes, heart disease, cancer, or one of the above. It can go down the list. We supply the information to help people get over those things. And guess what? Most people are afraid to touch on those topics because our government doesn't let you. They don't want you to. If you write about it, you're going to get sued. I talk about it anyway. I have books on the subjects. I have a book on every cure for cancer that there is. That's incredible. That's insane. That can definitely get me in trouble. I don't care, because guess what? I wish that I would have had that information available to me when I started, because I know people that were sick that are now dead. Kerry Simon is a great friend of mine. He ran a restaurant in Las Vegas. He's now dead because of a disease called MSA that I knew nothing about at the time. Now I know everything there is to know about it. So as we gain in knowledge, we help others with what we know. I'm not here to just push a diet. I don't give a shit what you eat. I want you to be healthy. I want you to make the right choice and then gain that knowledge, and then you can make others healthy around you. You will spread like a fire, like a disease. Everybody wants to be me. And when I started, I was telling everybody, oh, you should do this, you should do this. I was amping them up, and it just drove them away. They were like, that dude's fucking crazy. And then all of a sudden, now I don't say anything about it to anybody that I know. And they all want to know, like, oh my God, what's he doing? Well, it's working, whatever it is. Now they call me and they send me texts when I'm in the store, like, what do I do? Didn't you say to not buy enriched or fortified nut milks? Why is that? And like all these cool questions. It's cool. It's great.
I love it. Is wild yam progesterone cream acceptable?
Which one?
I guess progesterone cream sourced from wild yam. I would say in context, yes, but yeah.
Yeah, the topical that you find in stores where they put wild yam on to absorb through the skin subcutaneously and go through the system. I don't think you really find it organic, but that's one of my biggest hindrances with a lot of the natural stuff is they don't really go out of their way to just go to the next level. Now, I don't know if that's like government restrictions. It actually is organic, like my friend Marcus's stuff, but he can't label it because it'll cost him an extra $2,000 per label. It's just insane, or to get it halal or to get it certified. It's like, you got to pay a rabbi to come and bless it. And, boom, he's gone after like 30 seconds of being there for $5,000. Yeah, things are ridiculous. But for the most part, I really wish they would kind of go to that next level and don't put magnesium stearate and titanium dioxide in supplements and then go organic. That would be great. But we have to do what we have to do. It's like, if your options are take a supplement or not, and it has a bad ingredient, I'm just going to say take it, because that's my perspective. Detox it out, exercise, cleanse, do supplements, and get it out that way, because it's better to have some things than to not have some things. When I talk about supplements, I mean something very different than to most people. I'm not talking about a B12 and an iron supplement. I'm talking about a supplement that's going to do something your body can't obtain from food. That's what I mean with a supplement, and I'm sure you probably do the same.
Yeah, I think people kind of focus a little too much on the details, and I used to be there, like neurotic about all the details of health. And I find it's less about the details. Like, okay, you have real water, you're not showering in tap water, get some things set, and then you don't have to like trip out so much about, little things, little excipients in your supplements or whatever. So someone's surprised. They said, so Ramat is saying don't eat saturated fat with carbs and protein. I think this is a topic that there could be whole, huge debates on. I know Sally Fallon of the Weston A. Price Foundation doesn't believe in food combining. I don't believe in food combining. I don't think it matters, but I know a lot of people think it does. And you talk about glycation and stuff. So yeah, I think there's a lot of context. I think if someone's extremely compromised, then maybe food combining matters a little more. But if someone has rock solid digestion, they have low endotoxin, I think they could pretty much eat whatever.
Yeah, I think you're right. Here's what it comes down to for the average person listening. When you eat a protein-heavy meal, what does protein require? It requires hyaluronic acid of the stomach to break it down and trypsin, which is acidity. When you eat a starch or a carbohydrate, it takes an amylase saliva to break down. So you're having counterbalancing things when you usually combine proteins and carbohydrates. Fats don't have any pH. Their pH is neutral. A lipid is just neutral. So you can digest a fat with it pretty much anything. It just depends on if there's enough lipase in the food, and if there's not, then don't overindulge and don't have too much fat in the meal if you want it at all. But I'm usually telling people to avoid, to push them away from each other based on their source. From plant sources, you're pretty much going to have roughly low protein anyway, and higher carbohydrates. So usually you want to separate the foods that are acid and alkaline. Not that it's going to change your blood. It won't. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking more about digestive strength. A lot of people think, oh, I'm going to, they drink a lot of alkaline water, for example. Love the alkaline water. They have it with their meals and everything. That's just weakening your digestion. If you're going to drink alkaline water, drink it away from your meals, because it's going to weaken the hyaluronic acid of your stomach, weaken your digestion, and make that meal even harder to digest when it's already made probably hard in the first place. A lot of people have weaker digestion because they take things that the commercials tell you to take, like Tums. What is a Tum? A Tums is a calcium supplement that's alkaline, and it's neutralizing the acidity in your stomach. It's making your digestion weaker and harder to digest. It's not helping you digest. It's just removing the acid reflux. It's tricking the symptoms of the body, making you think, oh, it doesn't hurt me anymore. Maybe I'm digesting better. No, it's not. It's making your digestion worse. Sorry, tangent. I know.
I love it. I mean, my biggest question is, like, why does human breast milk have carbs, proteins, and fat all together if they're meant to be digested separately? But yeah, I mean, the enzyme thing makes a little bit of sense. So it's an interesting topic for sure. Let's see. Sugar isn't bad, but it shouldn't be overconsumed. Yeah, I think it can be overconsumed in context if someone's recovering. Like, I would say I overconsumed sugar when I was recovering from the Amun-Ra protocol. I lost count of how many grams. I was probably doing 200 grams of sugar a day. That was working for me really well. Let's see. What are your thoughts on raw milk? Someone asked.
Sorry, answering. If you're going to consume any milk, it should definitely be raw, because you need the lactase to break down the lactose, unless, of course, you have the active gene, which 50% of the population has to break down the lactose. Most of us don't, because that's why we have so much lactose intolerance. But for the average person, they can probably get it. Now, if it's from cows, I would say no. The ratio of compositions like minerals and they're too out of place. Little too much proteins, a little too many phosphorus. But goat milk, that would be the way to go. Is that was that your question? Like, how is it?
I think they were just wondering your thoughts in general. But yeah, my fridge is stocked with local raw goat's milk right now. I love that stuff.
Yeah. That would be the way to go. You want the sheep and the goat. The reason why I say that is because cattle are mostly made to stand there and produce milk. So they keep them lactating and they keep them producing milk. So there's a lot of hormones going into them. And that milk is out. They found that most dairy cattle, like 74%, have leukemia. So you're drinking a cow's milk that has cancer in it, no doubt. So you definitely don't want that in your system at all. So that should be out. I would never consume that whatsoever. But a goat, sure, much better for the system. Now, if you feel mucus forming from it, then you should probably lay off of it. You're probably having a little allergen from it. Your body's probably to protect you a little bit.
Interesting fact about goats: they're the only animal that can make their own selenium.
Selenium. Oh, that's pretty cool. And vitamin C.
No, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Vitamin E. They can synthesize vitamin E. They're the only animal on the planet that can do that.
Wow. They also make lots of vitamin C. Did you notice they also never get sick?
Yeah, that's true. That's pretty cool. Why are endorphins bad? I always thought they were a self-defense mechanism. I'm not sure what that's in reference to, but have you heard that endorphins are bad?
Endorphins.
That's right.
Now, we were talking about cortisol from overstressing the body, not endorphins you get from exercise. Those are actually good. That's what makes people get happy and excited from a small exercise or something that makes them excited. That's what makes adrenaline junkies hooked is because they go, oh man, I love that. Ooh, that feeling is really good. So those aren't necessarily bad. It's just the overstimulance of something like that would be harmful. That's why you said don't work out over the 45 minutes, right? You don't want that because those endorphins just running on overdrive all the time. But those are what's produced from working out. So you're not gonna. Those aren't necessarily bad.
I love it. Someone said, blew my mind that cannabis is highly estrogenic and serotonergic. That was from my Georgie interview. Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. Let's see. Infrared. They talked about a security camera illuminator. It's as effective as infrared. That's pretty cool. Can your systemic enzymes clear an infection in the mouth? I think it can clear anything. Systemic enzymes, Shilajit will do it too, but systemic enzymes break down biofilms, and biofilms are the protective barrier that a lot of pathogens build. It's like a little castle protective barrier, and so the enzymes will break it down. So I think you can't go wrong using systemic enzymes for really anything that you're dealing with. If it's a cavitation, I would use K2 in doses north of like higher than 300 micrograms daily for K2 MK7. Let's see. Milligram recommendations on the DHEA and pregnenolone supplementation, like the idea of only taking 3 times a week. If I were to do it, I would do maybe 100 to 200 milligrams Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 times a week. DHEA, like 10, DHEA, you only need like 10 milligrams. So really low on that one. But I think pregnenolone is really all you would need. And then you could play with progesterone. What do you say with low, what do you say to do with low HDL cholesterol and doctors recommending omegas?
With low HDL? Well, you can raise that fairly quickly. Beta sitosterol before you eat a meal, for example, is a good one because beta sitosterol blocks the introduction of LDL cholesterols. So now they can start to kind of raise themselves naturally again. Eat an avocado. A famous one that the bodybuilders love, for example, is because they usually have such high LDL from all the meats, is they do oatmeal. They do oatmeal in the morning, and it's so high in the beta sitosterol that it blocks it for quite a few hours afterwards as well. So that's a pretty good one, and it starts their day out blocking everything. Michael Hearn, for example, he takes raw oats in a bowl in the morning and just eats it raw, straight out of there. He's done it for the last 35 years, I think. He says it's like a horse. What does a horse do to gain mass? They just walk over and they eat the raw grain, raw oats. So he does that, and what is he? 6'2", 290 pounds. He's a monster. So can't go wrong with that advice.
That's pretty cool. For Christmas, I asked for a tobacco book on the chemical compounds in it, and it was like this thick. And beta sitosterol is a component in tobacco. It has everything. It has magnesium. It's a really interesting plant for sure.
Oh yeah.
What do you two agree most on? Probably that carbohydrates are the primary fuel of the body, right?
Carbohydrates? Yeah, they have to be. They're the fuel for the brain. They're the fuel for muscle and recuperation. I mean, glucose is the powerhouse of everything. Yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah, and I think we were talking about on the phone the other day that the eyes and the brain only run on glucose. And people say, "What do you mean?" Well, the brain can run on ketones. Yeah, but you're running on fumes, right? You're creating all these toxic byproducts from that process of using ketones.
Exactly.
What's your opinion on Dr. Michael Greger? If you looked at him,
is he the guy that runs nutritionalfacts.org?
Yeah.
When I first saw him, I go, "Why is this guy giving advice?" And then I realized he had a horrible disease that he got over, and that's why he looks the way that he does. I was like, okay. That's cool then. That's cool. He's he's on one. He's into the baseline. Like, let's say he goes, okay, well, the longest living groups of people today all eat the same thing. They eat beans. So everyone should eat beans. Okay. Well, that makes sense, but it's not the total answer to everything. You know what I mean? It's just like, okay, he's generalizing. We can't be just like that. We can't just step back and go, okay, well, beans are the answer. Beans should be the base food group. Everyone should eat beans, and beans are the reason that they're living long. It's kind of like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's step back. Let's look like what's going on here. Like, how much of their diet are beans? Like, what's the percentage? Because if it's not 50% of their diet, then you can't correlate it to it being their longevity, right? If it's only 1% of their diet, then why are you attributing it to beans? It's like saying, well, everybody I've ever met that's over 120 has olive oil. Olive oil is the immortality food. There's no doubt. It's like, wait a second now. Let's back this up a second, really figure out what's going on. So I feel that that's one of his biggest problems. The good thing about him is he's all about the research. He goes to the peer-reviewed PubMed studies and he looks at it from an objective standpoint. He goes, okay, well, it seems to me that we have a pretty good indicator of health being here. So I like that about him. You can't go wrong with that. It's not like he's just going out there and just saying, well, it's good for this reason, and he's all emotional about it, crying. What do you think?
But yeah, I don't really know what to. My friend Tristan Haggard of Primal Edge Health, he's made a lot of really funny videos about Michael Greigburn. You know, they were a little, trollish and calling him like Gollum and putting him next to pictures of Gollum and stuff. But he had a clip of him talking to McDougall, Dr. McDougall, I think he created the starch diet or whatever. And he just seems to have he seemed drunk, Dr. McDougall, and he's like the vegan starch guy. It seemed like he was just like belligerently drunk. So I don't know. I think that's lipofuscin, because that lipofuscin makes you chronically like drunk.
Oh, wow.
When the PUFA is oxidized, it's like because all the aldehydes, the peroxides, all the breakdown products of polyunsaturated fats are the same byproducts you get from ethanol breakdown. But after you run through all your vitamin E, run through all your vitamin C, you have no antioxidant production, then you're just drunk all the time and your brain's just getting wrecked. So yeah, I don't know. I really don't get a good vibe, I'll say, from Michael Greger, but who knows? Yeah, I didn't know he went through a disease. So any thoughts on disease?
Sorry.
Any harmful, beneficial? I guzzle ayahuasca every day. No, I'm just kidding.
I've never done ayahuasca. I have plenty of friends that did.
It's really big right now. It's funny. Sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah. I got so many questions. I was trying to answer.
Oh, you're trying.
But go ahead. It's harder to watch mine than it is yours.
You're a big fan of teas, right? Like Gynestemma, and I think that video you posted, because that was the question. What are your thoughts on teas? The 256 guy, he was drinking that. What was it? Concoction of like 6 herbs in there.
He had a soup though. That's what he did. He made a soup. So he would go over and he would take his root, like vegetable, and you'd put it in a soup, and he would throw in some Lycium barbarum, the northern goji berry. He would throw in some reishi mushroom. He would throw in some gotu koa, and some ginseng. And that was kind of like his herbal soup mix that he survived on. That was his. It wasn't, I guess it's like a tea, right? Unfiltered tea. So that was his program. Can't really go wrong with what he did. 7 feet tall, 256 years. You can't really go wrong with that program. But it's yeah, I do like teas. If I wake up, I'll do some, but I really don't like warm liquids. That's just a personal thing, but it doesn't get in my way of not consuming them. I will do some. I'm just not heavily just slamming liquids all day, right? I don't sweat much all the time. So
you're not Robert Casella program.
Richard Simmons.
We're supposed to bash all these. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to get into that next.
Someone asked, aspirin topically for lipofuscin age spots. Can you give the recipe protocol, please? You just mash it up with water and make a little aspirin paste. Have you ever used aspirin topically, Matt? It's pretty fascinating what it does. People use it for acne, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, and it helps regrow your hair too. You know that?
That's awesome. Just rub it in the hair.
Yeah, regrowth hair. Yeah, it's a lot of people have a lot of subcutaneous what is that? That oil, the sebum that grows up on the yeah, the oil that grows up, and it's kind of this thick oil, and people they wash it off, but it comes right back. And the more you wash it, the more oil comes. So they actually found that they're having an inflammatory problem. So they actually been doing topical aspirin mixed in like the powder, and they rub it on topically, and it regrows a lot of people's hair. So that's pretty fascinating. So it's not always completely DHT that makes everyone's hair fall out. So, or even if it is, it's still helping unclog those pores. Maybe it's helping break down some of that DHT that's binding to the hair follicle. And one person in particular does it a lot. He swears by it. Says it'll keep his hair forever.
That's cool. Yeah, I've heard hair loss is a lot of it could be elevated prolactin, but it's like multiple causes. But prolactin isn't talked about, and that could be super high in people with hair loss. So, does vitamin K2 actually help reverse minor tooth erosion? Trying to incorporate daily. That's a good question. I know it rebuilds the teeth from the inside out, but minor tooth erosion, I would think so. I don't know. Let me see. You talk a lot about how current nutritional science is BS and old studies are better. What's Raw Matt's opinion on it? How does he find good studies?
I go to PubMed and I read through the journals and make sure that when I'm reading something, I read exactly who funded the study.
Mhm.
If you're reading a chocolate study that was funded by Hershey's, you know you can throw that study out the window. So you got to read between the line a lot on studies. You can't just take them as their end all be all. In mass amounts. So it comes down to majority. What you do is when you look and you go, okay, if I can line up 15 studies that are all in conjunction with one another and they're third party researched, that's the best. That's what I find really good. Those are mine. But I
That's
read a lot of studies, so.
It's hard to find. Like, it's kind of sad to me that the studies are hidden. Like a lot of the studies that I want to share are you can't read the even the summary of it, only the title of the study. And so a lot of studies I don't think people realize have been almost like uh, hidden from the internet. And you need access. You need to be like an instructor at a university or a student at a university to have access to like a study from the 1920s. That's been my experience. I've been blocked from seeing a lot of studies that I want to see. For example, that Bud and Priori study on using sucrose for diabetes. I think they were using like 12 ounces of white table sugar to cure diabetes, and the study exists. It's just you almost have to like pay for it. It's crazy. So I think there's a lot of stuff that's suppressed and hidden, because it challenges the cancer industry, the estrogen industry, the omega-3 industry, the resveratrol industry. There's so many. It's interesting. Would aspirin grow facial hair? I would use more Shilajit for that.
Yeah, and a dermal roller, you can roll it on. Yeah.
I love it. Awesome. Well, I think we're tapped out here on questions. Someone says there's still live dedication. Yeah, going on 2.5 hours. I mean, this is pretty good. That was a lot of good info. I think it's good to have opposing views on.
Typing, my bad.
Yeah, I always like listening to you and Rowan. It's always fun.
That's awesome. We'd have them on sometime. We'd all go crazy because we all eat totally different.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Like 3 different lifestyles.
Yeah. Man, who do you think is the worst person in the health field right now? Who's giving the worst advice?
Easily David Wolf. Yeah.
Nobody watches David Wolf anymore. His channel's got like 25 people.
Yeah, probably him or that whole crew. There's a whole like crew that he works with, but yeah, I think just the PUFA diet. PUFAs have to be talked about, and I think if someone's going to do vegan, fruit, and I have a friend in Portland that eats fruit. Was it light stamps? Completely different spiritual beliefs. You know, I have a lot of friends with different ways of living and beliefs and stuff. So it's good. You know, I learned something from everybody. The one thing I saw the wave of sea moss. I don't know if you caught that, Matt, but like I think this was like 6 months ago. Like Irish sea moss was trending hard. Like,
Oh yeah.
everyone was all about the moss, and I was like,
You eat anything from the ocean right now. It's never been more polluted ever. It's crazy.
it was mostly in the fruitarian community. They were like slamming moss. I'm like, guys, what are you doing?
Wow.
Let's see. Yeah, Food for Protect is 2,000 IUs. Yep. Do like 8. Row a day. Yep. Let's see. Yeah, Jamie, it's like 4 to 8 Food for Protects a day. As long as you have K2 coming in and stuff, it's safe. So, who do you think's the worst? Giving the worst advice, Matt?
Right now, Matt Monarch. Easy. He's eating chocolates, telling everybody chocolate bars are healing him. Oh yeah, and don't forget sardines. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. He's running down the street. Huh?
I think I saw that video, or he's like putting jewelry in a box. That's why I stay off YouTube for the most part. Like I'll do lives here and there, but it's just become like a circus. It's like, you know, I wonder how many people actually still come to YouTube for actual health information. Probably not a lot.
I don't know. It's a good way to learn. You know, people learn better through audio and visual. So sometimes I think it's a good tool. That's why I make videos rather than going live, so I can show the study. I can show a side by side. I can say, look at this. You think this is true? Well, how come this is the result? You know what I mean? It's a little better. It's just more work and there's no money. So you know, I'd rather watch a video than sometimes read myself. But you can't get everything. Always, you have to read. So I can read and then I can make a video for people. So
yeah. And for me, studying the people that studying what the people that are like, for example, last night I watched Mark Sisson. You know, he's like the paleo keto guru. He created the Primal Kitchen. I think he just sold his company, similar to Bulletproof. So, you know, a lot of these guys will build a company just to sell it. He had like an hour interview on the ketogenic paleo diet that he created, you know, the Primal Blueprint diet. He wrote that book. And, you know, people say, why are you wasting an hour of your life, Matt, listening to a keto educator, Mark Sisson, with tons of gray hair, tons of wrinkles, tons of lipofuscin? Well, it's because I like to study these people and see where exactly they're going wrong and where I could share the exact opposite information, you know, with the specific topics that matter. So yeah, it's interesting. Like he talks a lot about metabolic flexibility and all these weird kind of like pseudoscience little things. I don't know. I will say I do like that he talks about play, because I think that's important. But did you ever look at Mark Sisson, Matt? Or
no, I don't think so. Maybe like if I saw the face, I'd be like, oh yeah, I recognize that guy. But
okay, yeah, I've listened to hours of him and Dave Asprey. I've seen Dave lecture live, and yeah, interesting people. Like you have to kind of read between the lines with what words are coming out of their mouth. Thoughts on sleep, circadian rhythm?
Well, asking me about sleep's the last thing you want to do. I almost get none. So I
don't you sleep with a floodlight on you? No.
No, I'm just a late night person, so my circadian rhythm would be messed up when you sleep outside. Nothing is better. You literally go to bed about an hour after sunrise, and you get up when the sun's rising. It just feels so good. But when you're inside, you just lose track, especially when you have a computer monitor. You're online. You know how fast time goes when you're on the internet. You blink and an hour is gone. You look at the clock, you're like 2 a.m. Guess I'm going to bed. So it's so important. Sleep is probably on the top 5 list for health for everybody. And yet I know that's my biggest problem. So I'm just going to tell everybody I know that's my mistake, but it's very important. And if you can get on a good circadian rhythm, it matters more than you probably think. And don't neglect sleep. And if you can't catch up on it tonight, at least take a nap. You definitely need to catch up on it. Sleep will wreck you.
Wasn't there a time where you were like sleeping in the desert? You told me you were like
Yeah.
waking up with animals.
Yeah, no, I slept at Tuckwoods Canyon for about 2 years. As a matter of fact, even a friend of mine named Jake Hopkins, who lives here locally, got so excited about going there, he just started staying there with me. We each had our own rock. Yeah, we did it for years. It's not far from here.
Did you wake up with like a bat on you said, or something?
Yeah, a bat on me once. I was like, it was all furry. I was like, what the hell? Kind of scared me for a minute, but then I go, oh, he just wants to be warm, right? I woke up with a snake on the side of me, laying up on side of me because I'm all warm.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. You get the animals; they come out like crazy. You're so warm.
Yeah, I just learned there's grizzlies up by me. I didn't know they were that close, like literally out the front door.
Yeah, you're right. You're where all the animals are at now. You would have a wall on top of you.
Wake up with the grizzly bear on me.
Yeah.
Can you talk about medical medium, and the Epstein-Barr virus craze? Have you looked into medical medium?
Take that one.
Yeah.
Which one first? Want to touch on medical medium? Okay, here. If a guy got all of his health advice from just spirits and says that he has no training in health, ask yourself, why can he pronounce a word like trimethylglycine? Did the spirits tell him that? Did they really get inside of his head and said, you need to know what superoxide dismutase is and what foods contain those? Those spirits aren't telling what him to do. He went to school and studied this. Come on, people.
Yeah, I think he's demon possessed, but he says that eggs cause Epstein-Barr, if I remember correctly. He says like eggs will increase your viruses in your body or something.
What do?
Eggs.
I don't listen to him. You know, I mean, I heard a little bit about him. I've listened to his. Other people have told me his advice. Like the Vegetable Police followed him, right? He follows him. He promotes his book and does all these things. And I hear the advice from somebody like him. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so bad. That's such bad advice. Like, I don't know where they get this stuff. The Goji Man, for example, is a real popular guy. I watched him do a video just recently, and he gave this person's breakfast a 10 out of 10. I was like, that was pathetic. That was a 7 at best. Like, I don't know where these people come up with this stuff. You know, I really don't.
Yeah. Someone asked me what I think of Naudi Aguilar functional patterns. I think they have a good program. I like that they call out weightlifting and yoga being BS, because I agree with that for the most part.
Right. Yoga's great for stretching, but it's not a damn exercise. You know, it's not a program. I remember doing it after I was done with jujitsu. That's our warm up for jujitsu. Yoga is not it's not the fitness aspect. That's your warm up. Can't believe it. It's a workout program.
Everyone's all about the light therapy tonight. How much is too much with a 250 watt heat bulb? Beverly, I used to sit in front of that in my RV, 4 of them. Literally, I think my record was 9 hours straight. You know, of course I got up and took breaks, but 9 hours in a day, I guess. I would sit into that, you know, I would say average 1 hour, because I believe I was light deficient for my whole life in those frequencies. So, yeah, how much is too much? I would say just gauge it by how you feel. But if you feel like megadosing it with the 250 watt, I say megadose it, because for me it was the more the better with that light. Let's see. Another aspirin question. Do you think aspirin could help with healing injuries due to its anti-inflammatory effect? My epicondylitis pain goes away after I take aspirin. I would take systemic enzymes more. And we were actually talking about systemic enzymes, right, Matt? Like, because my neighbor has a fibromyalgia.
Oh yeah.
You were saying, you know, that's fibrin, right? And
that's right.
You're like, give me your enzymes, Matt.
Yeah, it's even in the word fibromyalgia. Fiber, right in the beginning of the word, is the very meaning. So you need something systemically to rebuild these, and nothing's better than systemic enzymes for that. So.
That's awesome. Yeah. Have you ever heard of epicondylitis? I haven't heard of that condition.
What is it?
EPI condylitis. I mean,
No,
itis is inflammation, so any itis or osis, systemic enzymes could help. But
oh yeah, I'm sure. But no, I haven't heard of that one in particular. It must be pretty rare.
yeah, I would say slam the systemic enzymes. Do like three times a day or 6 twice a day. How do you heal the kidneys?
How do you what? Heal them?
Yeah.
Well,
Celery.
usually you get a very low TDS water, so they're not constantly like filtering things all the time because they have to filter things out. Like remember, protein can't be absorbed unless all the water is removed first. So the kidneys are always working to filter and filter and filter. But go ahead, Matt. I see you. You're amped up.
No, I love that you brought up the hard water, and I think I saw in the comments you said low TDS. I think that's just missing. Like Charles Mayo, the Mayo Clinic, said by the time someone's 80 years of age, they've consumed 450 12-ounce glasses of solids, so of rock dust. So if you think 450, glasses, that's a lot of rocks, and you don't just pee them out, right? Those get stuck in the body, stuck in the kidneys, stuck in the liver, stuck everywhere, right? In the brain, in the heart. And so I think, people go to like saturated fat and cholesterol for clogging the arteries and all these things. I think what really clogs the arteries is calcification and lipofuscin. I really think omega-3 is the primary cause of a heart attack, followed by magnesium deficiency.
So many people in America have magnesium deficiency. It was ranked the #1 mineral deficiency for multiple decades. So it's good to remind people that magnesium is so important because it's such a good relaxer for muscles and tension. So it's too bad.
Yeah, and what depletes it, right? Calcium and potassium. They're magnesium antagonists. So if you search like vitamin or mineral wheel, you can find pictures of the connections with lines across, and it's a really easy thing to see, to tell what's what. We're gonna light here. Let's see.
Nice.
What to do for membranous nephropathy? Gotta look this up. Let's see here. Membranous nepharopathy. Check out what this is. Kidney disease that affects the filters of the kidney, and can cause protein in the urine. So it affects the filters of the kidney. It's like build up to me. So calcification, like read my on my website. I have the CLF protocol. I would definitely check that out. Do you still recommend drinking magnesium bicarbonate away from food? If so, how far away from food? Just like 10 minutes, 5 minutes before, maybe half hour after. Let's see. Cool. Well, I think I'm all caught up here, Matt. So.
All right. We could maybe do a close up ourselves. Like, is there anything that you wanted to mention? Because we just jumped right into questions.
Yeah, I just launched on my website. I wrote I can't believe I haven't sent it to you, Matt, because I would love your feedback on it. I launched my own protocol. Not to say I have it all figured out. It's just I think I have a lot figured out. I don't think we'll ever have all of it, but it's the CLF protocol, and it's calcification, lipofuscin, fibrosis, and so it's the whole protocol is based around reducing the accumulation of these things, and then by dissolving them when they're already in the body. And so I go into endotoxin, I go into vitamin E, shilajit, all the different things you could do to reduce these. And I really do think they are the primary cause of disease. When I look at what causes tissue damage, it's oxygen deprivation. And we can get oxygen deprivation from calcification or lipofuscin, which then breeds fibrin, right? Or scar tissue or fibrosis. And I don't think people realize that as we age, we have this spider's web of fibrin that grows, and what's largely responsible for shrinking our organs and glands is fibrosis. So if you can imagine like this really massive spider web in your body, and it's just squeezing every organ and gland and shrinking them, right? And when you shrink something, you decrease its function. So I really think it's an awesome anti-aging protocol, and it can be combined with other things that you're doing, for the most part, whatever diet you're on, because I kind of go beyond food for the most part, and just I talk about water and different things. So yeah, I just think people overlook these accumulations in the body that can really have a powerful effect on their health.
I like it. That's good. I always tell people when you go to the store, because you go shopping all the time, hit the perimeter. Shop the perimeter of the store, because that's where all the perishables are. That's where your fresh foods are. You start hitting aisles, that's where your packaged foods are. That's where something can sit for years without ever being touched, because it's enzymatically dead, worthless food. So maybe good for like survival situation, but that's not the scenario right now. So really hit that perimeter. Shop mostly there. Go down the aisles to get your salts or your olive oils, things like that, but really just try to avoid them. And you'll find that alone will make your health go up. And it's a little more inconvenient because you have to go more often, but we're talking about health here, right? Nothing's more important. So
I love it. Yeah. And I would say if you're going to eat potato chips, make them Honest Jackson, because they started that company from a low PUFA place. So they only cook in coconut oil.
Smart.
So all the other potato chips, they'll cook it in vegetable oil. Honest Jackson, that started from low PUFA concept. It's a low PUFA concept company, Honest Jackson chips. So, yeah.
Good.
But I would definitely say fresh is best, because there's probably not a lot of enzymes in that. So.
A lot of people go, well, if you can't find anything fresh, I really like berries, but I can't find them fresh, get them frozen. The Max Planck Institute in Germany did a study, and they actually found that only 30% of the enzymes were lost after something was frozen. So you still get a lot of retention in these foods. Now, thawing them out, they don't really taste as good, but we're talking about you can use them for smoothies. In the dead of winter, obviously, is not the best time, but for the most part, frozen stuff, when something's out of season, you can still obtain it there. It's a lot cheaper, and some of them taste good. Like frozen jackfruit tastes phenomenal. It tastes really good. And you can still find those things that are out of season, in season in the freezer. So another good place.
That's a good tip. Yeah, just blend it with filtered water and add some sugar.
A durian rider. Sorry, everyone. Any jab I can throw at that guy, I'm going to do it.
Well, yeah, I think my phone here is about to die, so the perfect timing. But yeah, we'll have to do this again. Maybe on my channel we could do it. This will be on my Instagram. So
okay.
Yeah, and check out Raw Matt's channel for people that are watching. He has a lot of great videos. Yeah, the Devil's Bible is a trippy one. That's
that was fun. Nice and short too. Yeah, my channel's all over the place. So all kinds of crazy content. It's not like one particular subject, although I am transitioning into a workout kind of a one. I started that one.
You're an ordained minister too, right?
Yes. Yep.
That's awesome.
That's why I give such health advice, because everything that I write is religious information, because I'm not giving medical advice. I'm giving religious advice. I think God gave plants to people to heal themselves, and here are those plants. See how that works?
I love it. Awesome, Matt. Well, someone asked about varicose veins. Maybe we can make that the last one.
Oh, cool. Yeah, varicose veins. Interesting, because those can be healed. Matter of fact, B vitamins tend to have some of the best ones for that. B vitamins seem to replenish somewhat dead decaying, like non-used veins. Some of the veins just shut off, and the body is like, oh, they're dead, no more use. And the longer they've been dead, the longer you've had varicose veins, the harder it is to fix those veins. If it was pretty instant right away, then you can catch them in time and just slam some extra B vitamins. That's a really good way to immediately start to replenish them. That's one of the best. And I would actually put topical DMSO on there because it'll bring circulation into areas where circulation has already died. That's why I told that guy to put it on his back. So I didn't have to ask the details. Well, did you sprain it? Did you slip a disc? Did you pull a muscle? It really doesn't matter because DMSO goes deep enough to really regenerate all of those problems at the same time, like ice will. But if you're talking about just putting like a little heat pad, that's nothing. That won't do anything to cure them or fix anything really, except for maybe a twisted muscle. So that's what I recommend. To good DMSO on there and lots of B vitamins, and boom, you're good to go. Or hey, topical aspirin. Aspirin's a great one. Thins the blood quick.
I've also heard like nattokinase and serrapeptase, but specifically nattokinase, breaking down varicose veins, restoring blood flow, and then vitamin E as well. So I think systemic enzyme therapy and vitamin E therapy could be really good for it too.
Yeah, definitely. Good reminder on that one because I forgot about that. Serrapeptase is more for like the veins and the internal analog, as where the nattokinase seems to really, really work at thinning the blood. Matter of fact, I just a small cut on my knuckle one time, and I was bleeding profusely. I couldn't believe it, how much I bled. So I know that nattokinase thins the blood far more than serrapeptase does. But you can't neglect the benefits of serrapeptase because of the benefit that it has for your heart, because it really clears the anterior plaque out from the arteries. That's an amazing thing that nattokinase does not do.
That's awesome. Yeah, my supplement Dissolve It All is in a phthalate-free and stuff coated in plastic. And so mine's plastic. So
you lagged out.
What's that?
You lagged out. Repeat that.
Oh shoot. A lot of the cheaper ones are coated in flat phthalate because they have to be enteric coated to make it into the small intestine. And so mine is phthalate free. So it's made of an inert substance that you just pass out, pass through you. So yeah. Awesome, Matt. Well, really appreciate your time. And thank you guys on Instagram. 27 left. You guys stuck through it. That was a marathon.
Oh, I know. Okay, yeah, we didn't even plan for that, but it's all right. We do it, so why not?
Yeah, we'll do it again. There will probably be some people who want to see like a WWE fight with us. So
okay. Yeah, we can turn it up a notch. We can go turn on each other. We can turn on other people to have the audience decide. Have a vote. Like, who should we attack online? Who would you like to see just get destroyed? Go ahead, write. Have a vote so people can vote it. What do you think? You put it on your Instagram.
You have to wear your mask that you wore on the in the ring.
Oh yeah. Oh, I thought you meant my Egyptian one that I wore on my debate. Yeah, my old white one, huh?
The hooded with the black face, like
the executioner.
Oh, I love it.
Awesome, man.
You said my money's on Matt. I don't know about that.
Who?
He said my money's on Matt. I think he meant me. Raw Matt has more experience with fighting.
Oh, we didn't mean physical. Yeah, that's not fair.
I do have guns, though. No, all right, I'm gonna close out the Instagram. Thanks for joining, guys. Let's see. Cool,
man.
All right, Matt. Well, yeah. Thanks for your time. We'll have to do this again. It was fun.
Yeah, we answered a lot of audience questions, so that was good. Usually we just, we don't have enough time to go into details, but look at, you need 3 hours to go into detail with everyone. What?
Yeah, it was good. I think maybe we could do just on my podcast and then just dive deep into some stuff, and I'll make a list of questions or something. So
good.
Be fun, but.
Yeah, we'll do some fun ones, kind of like those curveballs I threw at Rowan. That was really good.
Yeah.
That was fun. Yeah.
Love it.
Awesome.
All right. Enjoy the red lights. I see him back there.
Yes. All right. Well, talk soon.
All right. Ciao.
Later.
Bye.
All right, everybody. That was pretty crazy. Didn't expect to go 3 hours, but that was pretty fun. Yeah, Matt knows his stuff too, so that's good, man. We're trying to help everybody out, and if we didn't get to your questions, I'm sorry. Just post them down in the comments section. I'll try to get to them. I know Rowan will be answering too, so he'll jump on there and help me out if I ask him. That'll be great. I was going to go over a lot more detail. I wanted to go over like my favorite supplements, like what I take and the reason that I take them, so that people can like maybe jump on that. But we can do that next time. I mean, this is just one of who knows how many we're going to do. I've been invited on a couple of channels recently, and I am intending to do that. Not looking forward to it really, but whatever. People find it entertaining, and it's kind of exciting. Gives me something to do, and the health topic is still exciting to me. I didn't know how much it would be until we start talking about all the subjects, and then it is pretty exciting. But my mind's kind of switched over. I've been doing a lot of young Earth creation topics lately, so kind of fighting against evolution theory, and it takes up a lot of time and effort and stuff. So it's nice to go back to the fun topics here on health. And let's see, maybe talk about the vertical diet by Stan. Huh, okay. That's a good one. And that should pretty much do it. Thanks for throwing in your questions. And stay tuned for the workout one. I will probably put that up tomorrow. Let this one get in as many views as I can. Otherwise, I noticed that when I release videos back to back, like 5 videos in a day, the first 4 never get watched. The last one does. So I'm obviously releasing videos far too close to each other. So I'm just going to wait till tomorrow and upload the workout one. And then the next day, another video. And the next day, another video. So I guess that's what I'll be doing. Oh, there's that name again. Stand Efforting. Never heard of him. All right, everyone. Good night. Nice to meet you guys. There's a couple new ones in there. Have a good one.